I have a system that helps me survive in a zombie apocalypse. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. The Fisherman Gains Benefit. Hearing his answer, Wan Qiushu's eyes lit up. I wonder what will be in the kitchen? I remember this is a seafood restaurant. I haven't eaten seafood for a long time. Even if there is no seafood, some meat will be good. He shook his head. Don't dream. Have you forgotten that the power is out now? So many days have passed. Even if there is something in the refrigerator, it has already gone bad. Wan Qiushu was immediately disappointed. He added, but maybe there will be some dry goods in it, like dried fish and bacon. Wan Qiushu couldn't help swallowing, and then immediately stood up with the help of the wall. Then let's go now. He grabbed Wan Qiushu. Why are you in a hurry? They won't run away. Let's wait a little longer. Wait until those zombies decide the winner, and then we will kill the last one. At that time, we can search the whole restaurant at will. Besides, your physical strength has not recovered at all. If something unexpected happens, it will be over. Wan Qiushu had to sit down again, but she became excited. After the two rested, they waited for more than half an hour before Wan Qiushu set off. She swung the hammer of the earth and walked out with a brisk pace. In fact, Li Wending was also very excited. However, he was more capable of hiding, and he knew very well that the closer it got to the last moment, the more careful he had to be, otherwise he might fall over. Standing outside the restaurant, through the glass door, you can see the mess inside. It was already messy enough before, but now it is even messier. The bucket has been overturned on the ground, and the black liquid inside has been licked clean. The original group of zombies has disappeared, but there are many traces of dried black liquid on the ground and around. And the suit zombie has indeed become the last survivor, squatting on the ground with his back to the door, so his movements cannot be seen. Wan Qiushu sighed. Although she is now the fisherman who benefits, the result she least wants to see has still appeared. Now we can only hope that this zombie has evolved in the brain, not other places. Otherwise it will be more difficult to deal with. After all, from what we saw just now, this zombie has a very high IQ, and is sensitive, has a certain ability to predict danger, and is not slow. Therefore, his evolution direction is most likely one of them. Pushing the door open, she walked in directly, and walked behind the zombie. The zombie still did not move, but his body was slightly shaking, and no one knew what he was doing. Since the other party did not react, she would not be polite, and directly swung the hammer of the earth to smash it on the back of his head, aiming to kill him with one blow. Even if he could not be killed, at least he could lose his ability to move. With a bang, the hammer of the earth missed, and hit the ground directly, and the figure of the zombie had disappeared on the spot. Her pupils shrank instantly, and then she swung the hammer of the earth and looked forward. At this time, the zombie still had his back to her. However, the next second, he slowly stood up and turned around. In his hand, he was holding a piece of black meat from an unknown part of the body, and his mouth was chewing it. Looking at Wan Qiushu, a red light flashed in his eyes. However, unlike before, he was no longer trembling with fear. Instead, he felt excited, and his eyes looked more like he was staring at his prey. Wan Qiushu frowned. She didn't expect that he would be the most difficult speed type, and he should also have a little danger prediction. This was troublesome. She happened to be swinging a sledgehammer in her hand, which was a heavy weapon. Not only did she not have much advantage against such a speed type player, but she might even be dragged down. However, she couldn't put down the earth hammer and fight the opponent barehanded. She had evolved the iron head skill, and even if she put down the sledgehammer, she might not be able to catch up with the opponent. At this time, the zombie threw away the meat in his hand, then half bent his waist and legs, and put his hands in front of his chest with claws, like a cooked prawn. However, this zombie, although it looked half a head shorter, made Wan Qiushu feel more dangerous, as if it would shoot over like a spring at any time. She decided to strike first, and rushed over directly swinging the earth hammer. Although the opponent is a speed type, there are many things here, and it is a completely closed space. As long as she can force him into a corner, she can just hit the mole as she wants. The most important thing is that she has limited time and can't drag it on any longer. The distance of just a few steps was reached in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Wan Qiushu swung the hammer of the earth in his hand. I don't know if the zombie was scared or something, but he stood there without moving. Wan Qiushu snorted coldly. Since he didn't hide, it would be the best. He would smash him against the wall and then finish him off in one go. As a result, the zombie suddenly squatted down, and the sledgehammer directly brushed his scalp, making a sound of breaking wind. Wan Qiushu's eyes condensed. The speed of this zombie was faster than she thought, and he could actually dodge this attack. And he must be very confident in his prediction and speed to make such a move. In fact, he did it. The next second, the zombie's body suddenly stretched out, like a spring, that was compressed to the extreme and rebounded. At the same time, his claws also stretched forward and poked Wan Qiushu directly. This action reminded Li Wending of the mantis shrimp he had seen on TV. It simply contracts its body and then bursts out in an instant. In this process, its pincers will generate tremendous power, which can break hard shells and even thick fish tanks. The zombie is much larger than the mantis shrimp, and its claws are sharper. If it pokes Wan Qiushu's body, it will definitely poke a big hole. So, Wan Qiushu forcibly grabbed the hammer of the earth, and then pressed the hammer handle down, and stood upright in front of him, which happened to be the direction of the zombie's claws. Because the zombie's attack speed was extremely fast, and it was a straight line attack, there was no time to change his moves. The next second, with a dang sound, the claws really hit the hammer handle. A huge force came from the hammer handle, and Wan Qiushu took several steps back before he could stand firm. But fortunately, he finally blocked the attack. The zombie's claws were retracted as if nothing had happened. At the same time, its body shrank again, preparing for the next wave of attacks. Wan Qiushu sighed. He didn't expect this zombie to be more difficult to deal with than the chef zombie just now. The chef zombie just now was just a little bit tougher. It would break through after a few more hits. But this one not only dodges but also counterattacks. The intensity of the counterattack is also very strong. If you are not careful, you will capsize. Chapter 27 A Touch of Sadness. Here, Wan Qiushu was thinking about how to deal with the zombie in front of him. Over there, the zombie saw that Wan Qiushu did not take action, so he attacked directly, swinging a claw directly. However, due to insufficient power accumulation, the speed of this claw was not as fast as the previous one. Li Wending's body was immediately trembling with anger. He had killed so many zombies, but this was the first one he encountered that was so bold that he dared to attack him with his bare hands. So, Wan Qiushu smashed it down with a hammer. If the zombie did not retract his claws, this hammer would have crippled his claws. The next second, the zombie really retracted his claws. However, at the same time, his other claw stretched out at a faster speed and grabbed Wan Qiushu's abdomen. It turned out that the previous claw was just a feint, and this one was the real killer. Wan Qiushu was surprised at the intelligence and fighting ability of this zombie, but she did not have time to think about it and quickly retreated. Because the earth hammer had already hit her, her movements were slowed down, and she retreated a little slower. With a rip, a few more pieces of cloth appeared in the zombie's claws. Wan Qiushu looked down and found a big hole in her clothes at the abdomen. Fortunately, the clothes she wore were thick enough, and she reacted quickly and dodged in time, so only the clothes were torn, and her body was not injured. If it weren't for these clothes, the consequences would be disastrous. If she was really caught by the claw just now, even if her internal organs were not injured, it would affect the battle. Although the main body can exchange for the first level healing medicine that can directly repair the injury, it is ultimately impossible to remedy the nearby fire. Although this attack did not hurt Wan Qiushu, it worked after all. After this attack, the last trace of fear of Wan Qiushu in the zombie's eyes also dissipated directly. He threw away the rags in his hand and attacked again. Wan Qiushu had no choice but to drag the hammer and retreat again and again. She now had a big hole in her abdomen. If she was hit by another claw, it would really be over. Moreover, she hadn't thought of a good way to deal with it yet. It was not advisable to move around randomly, otherwise it would reveal more flaws. However, the more she retreated, the more the zombie chased her, biting her tightly and attacking her from time to time, which annoyed her. However, the zombie seemed to be very aware of the power of the hammer of the earth, so he just kept a certain distance from Wang Qiushu, harassed her occasionally, and quietly looked for opportunities, and did not choose to attack. Seeing the performance of the zombie, Wang Qiushu became even more anxious. What kind of monster was raised in the fight just now? This fighting instinct is too strong. If he continues to evolve, it will definitely be terrible. Moreover, she looked at the time. Now more than 2 minutes have passed. If it continues to waste time, the transformation will be over. So, she either finds a way to get rid of the zombie now, or go back first and come back when she has thought of a way. Otherwise, the zombie is very likely to keep pestering her and not let her go. When the transformation is over, it will really be over. So, she swung the hammer and retreated while walking backwards until she came to the glass door. At this time, the zombie seemed to remember that Wang Qiushu would leave through the glass door every time and suddenly became anxious and attacked more fiercely. After such a long period of fighting, Wang Qiushu had adapted to the zombie's attack speed, so he could resist it. However, every time he took the initiative to attack, he would be dodged by the opponent. At this time, looking at the glass door, she suddenly remembered that when she left once before, the perverts also wanted to go out, but she hit them back with a hammer. Although she didn't pay attention to whether the zombie was a foodie or a pervert at that time, since the zombie had been staying here all the time and didn't go out even after evolving. That means that he probably didn't know how to open the door, and he didn't even think of a way to break the glass door and go out. She immediately came up with a plan. Anyway, she was going to leave. So, she swung the hammer of the earth first and forced the zombie back. Then, she pushed open the glass door and stepped out with one leg. Seeing this, the zombie really stopped and did not attack again. However, his eyes were clearly looking outside, and he obviously wanted to go out as well. Wang Qiushu decided to add fuel to the fire. She showed a mocking smile to the zombie and stepped out with the other leg. As long as she let go of her hand, the door would close again. The zombie really couldn't bear it anymore and rushed over at a faster speed than before. After all the zombies here have died. In simple terms, there is no food, so it is normal for him to want to go out. Wang Qiushu's mouth curled up a smug smile, waiting for you, and then she swung the sledgehammer in her hand and swung it out without even looking. The gap in the door is just wide enough for one person to pass through, so the zombie will definitely not be able to avoid this hammer. Unexpectedly, the zombie was really smart. When it was about to get close to the door, it actually jumped up directly, just enough to avoid Wang Qiushu's hammer. At the same time, he jumped much higher than Wang Qiushu, which means that he wanted to jump over Wang Qiushu. Wang Qiushu didn't expect that this could happen. The sledgehammer in her hand suddenly stopped. Then she held the sledgehammer with both hands and knocked it upwards. There was only a slight click sound, and the hammer of the earth came into close contact with the bottom of the zombie. Li Wending's body only felt a chill down there. They were all men, and he knew very well how painful it would be. And the sound just now should be a whine from somewhere. Originally, Wang Qiushu just wanted to delay the zombie and prevent him from running away and to cause some more damage. Who knew that, although the zombie was extremely fast, it was too light. So, after being hit by the hammer, he was directly smashed out and hit the ceiling with a loud bang. Then, the zombie fell down again due to the effect of gravity, and his legs were still twitching. It seems that the injury just now was indeed not light. He struggled to get up again, but Wang Qiushu had already come to him with a sledgehammer. Alas, you can't even be a man. Let me take you a ride. The hammer of the earth smashed down, and his head was obviously sunken. From the perspective of resistance to blows, it was similar to those zombies before. It seemed that his body was not strengthened. Then, Wang Qiushu smashed again, and soon, the zombie finally stopped moving completely. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Game. At the same time, the system also sent a message, and sure enough, 10 experience points were added. It seems that this zombie has indeed reached level 1. At this time, the transformation time is almost up, so Wan Qiushu no longer thinks about it, and walks back to the building quickly. The transformation is over, almost as soon as she enters the door. Li Wending, who has been waiting on the side, quickly supports her, and closes the door. Then, the two fell to the ground together. Wan Qiushu slowly opened her eyes and asked, "How is it?" He nodded. "Although it's a bit tricky, it's finally done. I should be able to collect things next time I go there." Wan Qiushu couldn't help but shout, "Great." At this time, she felt a little cool in her abdomen. When she looked down, she saw that there was a big hole in her clothes on her abdomen, leaving only the innermost clothes. He sighed. "This is what I mean by tricky." Unfortunately, the zombie was at the same level as Wan Qiushu, so there was no way to obtain the other party's ability, otherwise it would be a big profit to use acceleration or danger prediction. As for increasing IQ, with her brain, it is estimated that no matter how much she increases it, it will not work. However, he thought about it, and realized that, if the zombie was level 2 or above, Wan Qiushu would probably not be able to come back at all, so it can only be said that each has its pros and cons. Wan Qiushu waved his hands. "Anyway, it's okay as long as I'm not hurt. I wonder what I can collect later. I'm so looking forward to it. By the way, do you think someone took away all the things before that? If so, all our work would be in vain." He thought about it, and finally shook his head. "It's unlikely. The zombies appeared too quickly, and they didn't have time to take them away. Moreover, even the chefs turned into zombies. Even if someone wanted to take the food away, they couldn't get past the chef zombies. It's possible that the ingredients in the kitchen have been almost used up, and there has been no time to restock them. But there must be some dry goods. It's just a matter of how much." Wan Qiushu smiled. "It's okay. I can't stand eating white rice every day lately." He couldn't help but say, "You really don't know how lucky you are. I don't know how many people don't even have food to eat, and you still complain about it." Wan Qiushu thought about it, and still said, "It is human nature to pursue delicious food. Besides, eating rice without meat will not make you feel hungry, especially when we are consuming so much physical energy now." He nodded. The energy provided by white rice is limited, and it is indeed not enough for them to consume. Moreover, if there is enough food, they can also start to improve their physical strength. After all, their strength is linked to the transformation time. The longer the transformation time, the more things they can do. At the same time, this is also the fastest way to improve. As for killing zombies above their level to gain abilities, it is simply impossible for them now. After recovering her physical strength, Wan Qiushu transformed again and walked out, and at the same time, brought the corpse of the chef zombie and the 2 corpses outside the building into the restaurant. This place is sealed, and throwing corpses in it will not attract new zombies, nor will it raise more powerful zombies. Then, she walked into the kitchen. After working so hard for so long, she finally waited for this moment. It's time to see what's inside. When she opened the kitchen door, a rotten smell rushed out directly, and there was also a faint smell of black liquid. It seems that the chef zombie did eat a lot of other zombies in it, otherwise there would be no smell left until now. Wan Qiushu looked inside, and saw that the whole kitchen was in a mess. There was still a lot of water on the ground. It should be that the faucet was not turned off in time, and it did not stop until the water was cut off. There were many dishes piled in the sink, but black mold had appeared on them. There were no dishes in the sink, only a large black mass, which was probably what was left after the vegetables rotted. The refrigerator door was also opened, and it was even black inside, and there was even some black liquid dripping down. The chicken drumsticks that the chef zombie had taken before should have been taken from inside, and it was a good thing that he could eat them. After thinking about it, Wan Qiushu still walked in and stepped on the broken dishes, making a click sound. She first walked to the corner by the door, where there was a large sack. She held her breath and opened the sack, and inside was a bag of potatoes and sweet potatoes, as well as a few carrots. She quickly moved the sack outside the kitchen, because these things could only be stored for so long. As a result, when she came back, she found that the place where the sack was just now was wet, and a few small mushrooms grew on it. So she went outside again and poured out the contents of the sack. Fortunately, only the potatoes at the bottom had been soaked in water for a long time and had begun to rot. The ones further up were beginning to sprout. The potatoes and sweet potatoes at the top were fine, but the carrots were a little wrinkled because they had been stored for a long time. However, in the current situation, it was good to have something to eat. So she directly put the intact ones into the sack. After thinking about it, she put the sprouted potatoes in. There were already a lot of things in this sack, so she planned to move them back first and come back later for the rest. When Wang Qiushu was about to leave, Li Wending suddenly remembered something, so he asked directly in his mind, "System, can the scanner be used on Wang Qiushu?" System, yes. So Wang Qiushu said directly, "Use the scanner." The next second, his consciousness entered a three-dimensional space again, but this time it was centered on Wang Qiushu's body. Because the scanner had been upgraded, the area it could see was much larger this time, from the restaurant where Wang Qiushu was to the building where his body was located. In order to save experience, he just took a look and retreated. However, he had seen that there were no zombies outside these buildings, and he didn't know about the places outside that were not displayed. Wang Qiushu had been going back and forth between the two places without being attacked, which also proved this point, but it was only confirmed now. Moreover, there were no zombies in the seafood restaurant and the restaurant where he was. As for the rental house and apartment building between the two places, there were several red and yellow dots distributed on different floors. He already knew that the red dots were zombies, but he was not sure what the yellow dots were. He guessed that it could be a person or an animal, like a cat or a dog. However, he didn't quite understand why those people were yellow dots. After confirming the general situation, Wang Qiushu dragged the bag back. Chapter 29 The Survivors Upstairs. As a result, when she passed the apartment, someone upstairs suddenly shouted, "Help, can you save me?" Wang Qiushu stopped. She didn't expect that those yellow dots were really people. As for why the other party was yellow, it might be because yellow represents neutrality and non-hostility. At that time, Wang Qiushu and Li Wending cooperated with each other to kill the landlord's wife. So the system assumed that they were teammates, or she trusted Li Wending very much, so it was displayed as green. However, she would not pay attention to this person, so she continued to move forward. As a result, just after taking 2 steps, she heard a crisp sound of porcelain breaking behind her. She looked back and saw that there was a broken bowl where she was standing just now, and some fragments were scattered everywhere. In other words, if she hadn't walked forward just now, she would have been hit on the head. Even if she is now in zombie form, she doesn't know what the consequences will be if she is hit by such a high object. After all, even a very light object falling from a tall building can break a person's bones or even kill him. At this time, the man upstairs shouted again, "Since you don't save me, then you can't have a good life either." At the same time, Wang Qiushu heard a sound of breaking wind above her head, so she quickly jumped to the side. While jumping, she did not forget to drag the sack. After all, the things in the sack were more important and could not be smashed. Sure enough, as soon as she jumped away, several porcelain bowls fell from the place where she was originally, and they fell to the ground and broke into pieces. She put the sack aside and looked up. There was a skinny man at the window on the 4th floor, holding a porcelain bowl in his hand and preparing to throw it down. At the same time, there were men and women on other floors who looked out, but they had not spoken before. She shook her head and raised her middle finger. After seeing her red eyes, the man on the 4th floor was so scared that his hand trembled and the porcelain bowl fell directly. The others all shrank their heads back. The porcelain bowl fell not far from Wang Qiushu and broke directly. She snorted coldly and continued to drag the sack back. Li Wending's original body also shook his head at this time. It was unrealistic to rely on others to survive in the doomsday. He had to rely on himself. At the beginning, he had to find a way to cooperate with Wang Qiushu to kill the landlord's wife so that he could get to this point now. Although he just took a brief look, he remembered that there was only one zombie on the 4th floor and there were no zombies below. In other words, as long as the man killed the zombie on the 4th floor, he could go down, or even go out, to find a chance to survive. There was only one zombie on the other floors with people, but they obviously did not have the courage to fight desperately. They only dared to hide at home, and shout for help, or wait for others to come to save their lives. For these people, he could only say that they deserved to starve to death. Especially the man on the 4th floor, who was narrow-minded and could not stand others good at all. When he did not get a response, he dared to throw objects from a high altitude, clearly wanting to kill people. If Wang Qiushu was not in zombie form and was hit again, he would be seriously injured if he did not die. If it wasn't too troublesome to go in, and he had to tear down the door and kill the zombie, he would have directly controlled Wang Qiushu to go in and teach the man a lesson. The journey was smooth, no one dared to speak, and nothing was thrown down. When Wang Qiushu returned to the building, there was still time, but not enough to go back and forth again. Thinking of the scanners that could be shared just now, he couldn't help but ask, "System, can this transformation be cancelled actively? After all, this is too wasteful." System, yes, the host can cancel the transformation at any time, but the next transformation can only be carried out when both parties are full of physical strength. He nodded. It was fine, as long as it could be cancelled, which could save a lot of physical strength and time. As for the limitation of the transformation, he didn't think there was anything wrong with it, just treat it as a skill CD. Moreover, in that case, it ensured that the transformation time must be 5 minutes. Otherwise, he transformed with 1/3 of his physical strength, and it was hard to grasp how long the transformation time would be, and it would be easy to go wrong during the battle. Then, he directly cancelled the transformation of both parties. Since they still had enough energy, they did not lie on the ground directly due to exhaustion, but stood directly on the spot. After Wang Qiushu woke up, she found that she was not lying on the ground for the first time, but standing. She felt her body again and wondered, "Why do I feel not very tired this time?" He smiled and said, "This time there is still time, so I thought, if I could cancel the transformation directly, and it turned out to be possible. Moreover, if I cancel the transformation in advance, my energy will not be exhausted, so now we both have a certain amount of energy." Wang Qiushu nodded, "So that's how it is. Finally, I'm not exhausted, and lying on the ground for once." Then, she saw the sack again, rushed over directly, and then said excitedly, "This is our harvest. Don't tell me yet, I want to see it myself. I always feel like I'm opening a package. What will be inside? I'm really looking forward to it." Seeing Wang Qiushu's excitement, he didn't want to interrupt, so he stood aside and watched quietly. Wang Qiushu opened the bag little by little, and saw some sprouted potatoes. Her smile froze. She turned the pages down again without giving up. There were dry carrots, then sweet potatoes, and then potatoes. She was too lazy to turn the pages any further. He then said, "These are our harvest." Wang Qiushu was disappointed. "We worked hard for a day, and only found these things, not even any meat. Look, these carrots are wrinkled, and these potatoes have sprouted. Eating sprouted potatoes will cause poisoning." He nodded. "There's nothing we can do. These are the last vegetables, and only these can be stored for so long, so of course we can't miss them. As for the sprouted potatoes, I plan to plant them, so that we don't have to worry about not having them to eat in the future." Wang Qiushu sat down on the ground. "Then we will have to eat potatoes every day in the future. Mashed potatoes, potato cakes, fried potatoes, steamed potatoes, fried potatoes, and even made into French fries and potato chips." He smiled. "That's not necessary. I haven't finished talking just now. This is just the harvest at the kitchen door. I saw such a big bag, so I moved it back first. I haven't searched the kitchen yet. There must be something inside." Hearing this, Wang Qiushu stood up immediately. "Then let's transform quickly and go again. This time we must get some meat back." Chapter 30. Wang Qiushu becomes smarter. He pushed Wang Qiushu back to the ground and sat down next to her. "Don't be anxious. Although cancelling the transformation in advance can save energy, you still have to wait until your energy is fully recovered before you can transform next time. Besides, we don't need to transform later. Wang Qiaiyushu blinked her big eyes. Ah. What do you mean by not having to transform? He smiled and said, I just use the scanning ability on you. There are no zombies in the restaurant or outside, so we can go directly there later without the trouble of transforming. Wang Qiaiyushu was about to stand up again, but was stopped by him. Don't be anxious. Although there are no zombies outside for the time being, the situation will change. Even if we want to go out, we have to do it when we are fully energetic. Otherwise, if something dangerous happens, we won't be able to run fast enough to escape. Wang Qiaiyushu thought about it and sat down again, but an excited smile appeared on her face. She would swallow her saliva from time to time. I wonder if she was thinking of something delicious. When her physical strength was almost recovered, Wang Qiaiyushu couldn't help it and looked at him directly. It's okay now. It will be dark if we wait any longer. He shook his head and said helplessly, let's go. I think you will go crazy if we wait any longer. Wang Qiaiyushu smiled and said, it's almost time now. Waiting is really a tormenting thing. After that, she began to take off her clothes, taking off all her outer clothes. Anyway, there were no zombies outside, and wearing such bloated clothes would affect her movements. After taking off her clothes, she directly pulled Li Wending out. However, before that, she still looked outside and found that there were really no zombies before she dared to go out. He nodded. It seemed that she had not been overwhelmed and was still quite cautious. Since it was only a few dozen meters from here to the restaurant, it would only take 2 minutes to run there, and there were no zombies visible to the naked eye, so he did not use the scanner. After all, experience was still relatively rare and must be spent on the blade. The two walked forward together, but when they were about to reach the apartment, he pulled Wang Qiaiyushu away and walked around for a while before walking towards the restaurant. Wang Qiaiyushu was puzzled. Why do we have to go around so much? Can't we just walk straight over there? He shook his head. There will be objects thrown from high altitude there, so it's better for us to stay away from them. Wang Qiaiyushu asked in confusion. Really? However, she did not continue to ask. They had not taken 2 steps when the voice of the man on the 4th floor came again. Help. Wang Qiaiyushu looked at him. It seems like someone upstairs is shouting for help. He shook his head. Don't worry about him. Wang Qiaiyushu said oh, and the two continued to walk forward. The next second, a porcelain bowl fell down not far from them, scaring Wang Qiaiyushu. She patted her chest. Fortunately, if I was downstairs just now, I would have been killed by the falling objects. Then she looked upstairs. Are you sick? You threw things randomly. What if you hit someone? The man on the 4th floor was holding a porcelain bowl in his hand and was about to throw it down. Seeing Wang Qiaiyushu's appearance, he hurriedly said, I'm sorry, I thought you were zombies. Can you save me? Because Wang Qiaiyushu took off all her clothes and was not bloated at all, and without her iconic red eyes, the man did not recognize her. Wang Qiaiyushu was stunned for a moment, looked at the broken bowls next to them and downstairs of the apartment building, and then looked at Li Wending. Did he hit me just now? He was also stunned for a moment. When did this confused stewardess become smart? However, he still nodded. So Wang Qiaiyushu stretched out her hand, raised her middle finger to the man, and then pulled him to continue walking forward. At this time, someone else upstairs shouted, I didn't throw objects from a high altitude. Can you save me? I can give you anything you want. Others also shouted one after another. Wang Qiaiyushu stopped for a few seconds, then continued to pull him forward. He smiled. This guy is quite interesting. Seeing the two people walking away, those people were furious and started to curse again, saying all kinds of ugly words. Soon, the two came to the door of the restaurant. Wang Qiaiyushu couldn't wait to push open the glass door and then started to retch. He said helplessly, you are too impatient. I didn't have time to remind you. Because this is almost a completely sealed environment, the stench of the zombies that died before has not dissipated, and Wang Qiaiyushu moved a few more corpses here, so the smell is not to mention how stimulating it is. Wang Qiaiyushu looked at him. I thought it was hard for you to control me to fight, but I didn't expect to fight in such an environment. It's really hard for you. After all, when she became a zombie, she was unconscious. so naturally she couldn't smell the stench, and Li Wending's original body was completely empathetic. He smiled and said, "You'll get used to it." Wang Qiuyushu said, "Should we use that thing to hold up the glass door to allow it to ventilate? Otherwise it will be too uncomfortable." He hurriedly said, "Don't do that. There are 2 level 1 zombie corpses here. You also know how attractive their corpses are to ordinary zombies. If the wind happens to be favorable, the smell of the corpses will be brought to other places. I'm afraid it will attract other zombies. If you feel you can't stand it, then you just wait in the building later. I'll move it slowly by myself." Wang Qiuyushu shook her head and said with gritted teeth, "No, I can do it. I can't let you bear everything alone." He was stunned for a moment, then said, "I didn't bear everything either. Didn't you use your body in the battle? Although everyone will lose physical strength, it is obvious that your body is more dangerous and may be injured. In this respect, you have paid more than me." Wang Qiuyushu shook her head again. "That's different." After that, she pushed open the door and walked in. He looked at Wang Qiuyushu's back and sighed, "It seems that I'm really lucky to have found a good teammate." Then, he also walked in and closed the door. After entering the restaurant, Wang Qiuyushu changed her previous appearance outside the door and stopped retching. She walked towards the kitchen with a clear purpose. Because her long legs were walking too fast, and he was just a few seconds slower, he could only follow her from a distance. It was not until he saw Wang Qiuyushu walk to the kitchen door that he remembered something. Wait. Chapter 31 Empty the warehouse. Wang Qiuyushu turned around and looked at him. "What's wrong?" He sighed. "Nothing." Because he knew it was too late. Sure enough, the next second Wang Qiuyushu retched again. This was what he forgot to say. Seeing him approaching, Wang Qiuyushu asked while retching, "Ugh, why is this kitchen smelling worse than outside?" She thought the smell outside was disgusting enough, but she didn't expect the smell here to be even worse than outside. He smiled and said, "Of course, there is only the stench of corpses outside, but in the kitchen there is the stench of corpses and the smell of rotting food. How can it not stink? And you walked too fast. I didn't have time to tell you." Wang Qiuyushu looked at him unhappily. "Why do I feel that you did it on purpose?" He said quickly, "Absolutely not. Also, it's a bit damp inside, it's easy to fall, and the things inside are even more disgusting than this smell. Otherwise, you wait outside the kitchen, and I'll go in and move the things out." Wang Qiuyushu retched several times in a row, then looked up at him again. "No, I'm here. I absolutely can't give up. Besides, only by doing it myself can I experience the pleasure of treasure hunting." He was stunned for a moment, then said, "Okay, but I suggest you be mentally prepared. In addition, you can try to hold your breath when you go in." After that, he walked into the kitchen first. Wang Qiuyushu followed closely behind. Although she was mentally prepared, she couldn't help but gasp when she saw the situation in the kitchen. As a result, he inhaled all the stench in the kitchen into his lungs and immediately began to retch again. He looked back and found that Wang Qiuyushu was vomiting so much that even tears came out. He quickly took her out of the kitchen and said, "There shouldn't be much in the kitchen. See if there is a warehouse here. Their work and rice and flour should be in the warehouse." This is what he just thought of. A restaurant this big must have a place to store those things, instead of pulling them all into the kitchen. After all, the kitchen is so small, and the chef has to work in it, so naturally a larger space is needed. Wang Qiuyushu nodded when she heard this, and no longer insisted on going into the kitchen. He walked into the kitchen again, and after a search, he really didn't find anything. There were only some already opened oil, salt and other seasonings, as well as some flour and noodles, but they were all already opened. Given the poor environment in the kitchen, he really couldn't be sure whether these things were contaminated, so he didn't take them. In addition, he did find a few jars of clean water, which were covered tightly, and the water was very clear, so there should be no problem. After a round, he walked out of the kitchen empty-handed, but Wang Qiuyushu ran away. He walked to the wine cabinet next to the front desk, which contained several bottles of wine with gorgeous packaging. Although he didn't drink, he couldn't go home empty-handed, since he was here. At this moment, Wang Qiuyushu's scream suddenly came. He hurriedly followed the sound, and found that he came to a dry and dark room. He stood outside the door and shouted, "Wan Qiushu, are you in there? If you are, please answer the door." Wan Qiushu's joyful voice came out, "I'm here, coming quickly." He hesitated for a moment, but remembered that the scanner had scanned it before and there were no zombies in it, so it should be fine. So he walked in and asked as he walked, "What did you shout just now? I thought you were in trouble." Wan Qiushu came out and pulled him in. "Come here quickly, I found something good." He followed Wan Qiushu all the way in, and then he was stunned. Wan Qiushu smiled and said, "What do you think of my harvest?" He nodded. "You are really good. I can't find anything to eat in the kitchen, and even if there is, it may not be edible." Wan Qiushu said proudly, "Of course, I'm a good treasure hunter." They are now in a warehouse, where there are more than 10 bags of rice on the ground, and flour next to them. On the other side, there are dried goods such as mushrooms, and on the wall are 4 or 5 half-person high hams, several slices of bacon, and several strings of Cantonese sausages. He was so excited that he hugged Wan Qiushu. "Now we are rich. The food here is enough for us to eat for a long time." In the dark room, Wan Qiushu's cheeks flushed slightly, and then she pushed him. "Let me go first." He quickly reacted, "Sorry, I was too excited for a moment." Wan Qiushu said quickly, "It's okay. By the way, let's move quickly and make dinner early after moving. I can't wait." He nodded. "Leave these heavy rice and flour to me. You can pick the lighter ones to move." Then he directly carried a bag of rice and walked out. Wan Qiushu followed behind him holding a ham. When he walked to the door, he still looked outside cautiously and only walked out after confirming that there was no danger. When passing by the apartment, those people may have shouted tired and did not appear again. In order to speed up the progress, the two simply moved the things to a room on the second floor, which could save energy and not spend so much time. Next, the two began to go back and forth between the building and the restaurant. Of course, they were not overwhelmed by joy. They would observe before going out every time to make sure there was no danger before going out, and they would also stay alert on the road and be ready to run away at any time. The things in the warehouse were also decreasing little by little, and after the big items were moved away, they found a lot of seasonings such as salt, soy sauce, and peanut oil. Finally, they even found a few packs of candles and a box of lighters. Wan Qiushu said happily, "Wow, there are candles. So can't we light candles at night?" As a modern person who has become accustomed to electric lighting, she is still not used to the dark night. Although the light of candles is not as bright as electric lights, it is better to have them than not. He looked at the candles and thought of his childhood. In the countryside at that time, power outages often occurred in the summer due to insufficient electricity. Every night when there was a power outage, people would light candles and chat under the big tree at the entrance of the village, and the children would play around the dim candlelight. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but think of his parents at home, and didn't know how they were doing now. Wan Qiushu looked at his expression and said, "Forget it, let's save the candles." It took a lot of effort to find this little. He smiled and said, "It's okay, we'll just light candles tonight." Chapter 32 Obtaining the chopping knife. After the warehouse was completely moved, both of them were so tired that they almost fell down. Wan Qiushu's face was covered with sweat, but she still smiled. "Although it feels much more tiring than killing zombies, I'm still very happy, especially when I think that I can eat meat tonight. By the way, now that we have finished moving, can we go back to rest and cook?" He shook his head. "Not yet. Although the things in the warehouse are gone, there are still some in the kitchen." Wan Qiushu asked in confusion, "Didn't you just say that there is nothing to eat in the kitchen?" He smiled. "Yes, there is indeed nothing to eat, but there are drinks." "Drinks?" Wan Qiushu was stunned for a moment, and then rushed into the kitchen, not even afraid of the stench. She walked directly to the water tank, opened the lid, and was stunned when she saw the clear water in the tank. He followed and came over. "How is it? This is much more important than those foods. Fortunately, this is a restaurant, so there is so much water stored." At this time, Wan Qiushu looked at him pitifully. "Can I take a bath tonight?" Because there was not enough water, they hadn't taken a bath for several days. Even though he had killed zombies all day yesterday, Wan Qiushu simply wiped his body with water. After moving things for so long today, he was sweating again. He nodded. Well, wash it, but don't use too much. Wan Qiushu jumped up with joy. That's great. My body stinks. But she quickly asked, however, although this water is not exposed to the outside, it may be contaminated. Can it really be used for bathing and cooking? He thought about it. It should be fine. Even if there is a problem, I can't care so much. If we don't have water to drink, we can't support it for long, especially since we have sweated so much in the past 2 days, which has taken away a lot of water. Wan Qiushu didn't care so much. Then let's move it quickly. I want to go back and take a good bath. The two of them lifted the water tank and walked back directly. After putting down the water tank, he said directly, you can rest here. I will run another trip. Wan Qiushu lay on the ground and nodded. Then be careful. He came to the restaurant again, wrapped all the wine with a clean tablecloth, and dragged it back. Back in the building, Wan Qiushu looked at the bag curiously. What's in it? He smiled. Guess. Wan Qiushu thought for a while. Just now I heard a sound of glass colliding, so there must be glass inside, right? I guess it's a glass cup. His smile froze. You are such a little genius. Wan Qiushu had already opened the bag, and inside was all kinds of wine, white wine, red wine, and all kinds of alcohol. She couldn't help but ask, so you like to drink? Or do you want to get me drunk? And then, after saying that, she covered her chest again. He was speechless. We have known each other for so long. Why do you still think of me as a bad guy? Alcohol is a good thing, although I don't drink it, but it can be used to kill bacteria and disinfect. Besides, if we meet some alcoholic survivors in the future, maybe we can trade with them. Wan Qiushu nodded, but still said, haven't we only known each other for 3 days? How can it be a long time? He sat down next to Wan Qiushu and murmured, only 3 days. It feels like a long time has passed. Wan Qiushu smiled. Yeah, maybe it's because we have experienced more in these 3 days than in the past 20 years. I don't even know how many zombies we have killed, so I have that illusion. Speaking of killing zombies, he suddenly remembered that he almost forgot the most important thing, so he stood up again. Wan Qiushu asked curiously, are you going out again? He nodded. I almost forgot something. I have to go get it. Wan Qiushu also stood up. I've rested enough. Let's go together. The two returned to the restaurant again, but Wan Qiushu looked around and found that it had been emptied. What was left was some garbage and junk, and there was nothing to take away. At this time, he pointed to the wall and said, I'm talking about that thing. Wan Qiushu looked up and saw a bone cutting knife with half of the blade buried in the wall. She agreed, this knife looks pretty good. This way, you will have a weapon for self-defense. He remembered that there was a ladder in the warehouse, so he moved it over and climbed up. Wan Qiushu was holding the ladder from below. He climbed to the position of the knife and pulled the handle with his hand, but found that it didn't move at all. He didn't dare to pull it out with force, otherwise he would fly out with the knife. It was so high, and he would fall half to death. So, he said to Wan Qiushu below, don't look up. I'll loosen the knife a little before pulling it out. Dust may fall in the middle. Wan Qiushu lowered his head. He held the knife handle and gently shook it up and down. The blade swayed slightly in the wall, and dust fell. As time passed, the blade gradually loosened and moved outward little by little, and finally he pulled it out. He held the knife in one hand and carefully climbed the ladder back to the ground with the other hand. Wan Qiushu looked at the knife in his hand curiously. This knife was inserted directly into the wall, and it didn't deform at all. He nodded. Well, I just noticed this. It may be because the blade is extremely thick and very sharp, so it is like this. If it is a bone chopping knife in the vegetable market, the blade will be thinner. Although it is sharper, it is definitely not as durable as this one. At this time, Wan Qiushu said, it just so happens that we are going to eat ham tonight, so let's use the ham to test how sharp it is. After all, those hams are hard and must be difficult to cut. He looked at Wan Qiushu expressionlessly. The chef zombie just used it to cut off a thigh of another zombie, and I guess he has done this many times. Are you sure you want to use it to cut ham? Wan Qiushu was stunned for a moment. Just pretend I didn't say anything. He waved the bone chopping knife again. Although it's a bit heavy, it's at least sharp enough. And the hammer is a blunt instrument after all, and this kitchen knife is a sharp weapon. In some cases, it is better to use, especially when dealing with the speed type zombie just now. It would be much easier if there was such a relatively light bone chopping knife. Wan Kyushu said again, by the way, you can upgrade it. He thought about it and said, let's talk about it later. After all, it takes too much experience to upgrade once. Chapter 33, Happy Pet. Now, the restaurant was completely emptied by the two of them, and there was no need to come again, so the two of them prepared to go back. However, when passing by a row of fish tanks near the door, Wan Kyushu suddenly said, there seems to be something in this fish tank. These fish tanks are usually used to raise fish. Guests can directly see the state of the fish through the fish tank to judge whether it is fresh or not, and then choose the fish they need, and the restaurant will directly slaughter and make it into a dish. Because the taste of live fish and dead fish is very different, this method can make guests eat more assured, and many restaurants will have such a design. However, he took a look at the fish tanks. Although there was still water in them, and it was not completely dry. However, the water in the fish tanks was already black, and there was a layer of oil film floating on it. He was sure that it was because of this layer of oil film, otherwise the stench in the fish tank would have come out long ago. So, from this point of view, there should be no living things in the fish tank. Even if there were fish before, they are probably fish bones now. He looked at Wan Kyushu. Are you sure? The water has become like this, but it is not dead yet. The vitality is really strong. Could it be crayfish in it? Moreover, it can escape the clutches of zombies. Although he was not sure whether zombies would catch fish, if the fish swam in the tank, it would always attract the attention of zombies. However, the fish tank was fine now, and it did not seem to be attacked by zombies. Wan Kyushu affirmed, definitely, I saw it move just now. He said, well, we will know after clearing the water. Because these fish tanks were too big and connected together, and there was a lot of water in them, he did not want to waste energy to move them. Although it would be faster to move the fish tanks and pour the water directly. He went to the kitchen to find a large bowl and then scooped up water. When the first bowl went down, it directly broke the oil film on it. As expected, at the moment the oil film was broken, a foul smell floated out directly. Fortunately, he had already held his breath. So the problem was not big. Wan Kyushu was curious about what was in the tank, so she couldn't wait to stick her head in to take a look. She was immediately overwhelmed by the stench, and began to retch again. He walked to the side to take a breath, and poured out the water in the bowl. I forgot to remind you, just now that the water is very smelly. Who knew you would stick your head in? Wan Kyushu stared at him. I'm beginning to suspect that you did it on purpose. You stunk me 3 times in one day. Each time the smell was different, and each time it was afterthought. He waved his hands repeatedly. Absolutely not, and you didn't see it just now. I took a deep breath before I started. It was because I knew the water would be very smelly, but I didn't have time to stop you. You'd better stand further away. The surrounding area will be filled with that smell. Hearing this, Wan Kyushu quickly hid aside. Then he continued to scoop up water. As the water was stirred, the smell really began to spread around, and even if he held his breath, he couldn't stop it. All fishy things like fish, frogs, and snakes, when they die, not only will they have a pungent smell, but they will also have a pungent smell. The combination of the two is a perfect match, and it is hard to resist. Especially this water, which has been sealed and fermented for so many days. The smell is so pungent. Fortunately, there was not much water, and he finally filled it up before he was fainted. However, although there was no water at the bottom of the tank, it was covered with a mass of black stuff, and some fish bones could be seen on it. He guessed that the black stuff was either fish feces or the remains of rotten fish meat. At this time, he saw that there was indeed something at the bottom of the tank, and it moved, so he shouted, there really is something alive here. Wan Kyushu hurried over. What is it? What is it? Is it a fish? It can't be a crayfish, right? He shook his head. Neither. Wan Kyushu held his breath and looked in. He found 2 black stone-like things at the bottom of the fish tank. He was immediately disappointed. Didn't you say they were alive? Aren't these just 2 stones? He scraped the 2 stones with the edge of the bowl, revealing the black and brown underneath, as well as some golden lines. This is not stone. Wan Kyushu asked curiously. Then what is this? He took out a bag, took out the two things, and roughly wiped them. He could vaguely see the shape of a turtle shell. These two are turtles. Their scientific name is Chinese turtle. Wang Qiaiyushu said in surprise. It turns out to be turtles. At this time, the two turtles stretched out their limbs and heads, looked at the two of them, and wanted to leave, but he was held down again. He looked at it for a while, then said, "This black one is a male turtle. After it matures, its entire body will turn black, which is why it is called turtle. This brown one is a female turtle, and they just make a pair." Wang Qiaiyushu smiled. "That's great, but their vitality is really tenacious. They are not dead even like this." He nodded. "Well, as the saying goes, a 1,000-year-old turtle lives for 10,000 years, so they are not that easy to die. Speaking of which, turtles are quite nutritious, and we are in for a treat. However, they have been in dirty water for so long, they have to be kept in clean water for a while, to drain out all the dirt." Wang Qiaiyushu snatched the bag. "No, that won't work. They have finally survived. How can we eat them like this? I want to keep them as pets, and I haven't raised a turtle yet." He was speechless. "They need to eat feed or fish and shrimp. We don't have feed, and we don't even have fish and shrimp to eat, so where can we feed them?" Wang Qiaiyushu said directly. "Didn't we just get a lot of bacon and dried fish? Just feed them with those." He shook his head. "Those are pickled with salt. Turtles can't eat salt, otherwise they will die soon." Wang Qiaiyushu still insisted. "Anyway, you are not allowed to kill them. I want to keep them. Maybe I can find feed soon." He had no choice but to say, "Okay, whatever you say." Now there was really nothing left, so the two of them walked back. He walked in front with a bone chopping knife in his hand. With the knife in his hand, he was not afraid, even if a zombie suddenly appeared. Wang Qiaiyushu walked behind, holding the bag in his hand, with a smile on his face, and now he didn't think the two turtles were smelly. When they went back, they were naturally insulted by the people upstairs again. However, the zombies in the building also followed the insults, and banged on the door, which frightened those people so much, that they dared not say a word. Chapter 34. Poison Testing. After the two returned to the building, they took some dishes to cook in the evening, and then carried 2 buckets of water back to Wang Qiaiyushu's room. 1 bucket of water was used for cooking, and the other bucket of water was for Wang Qiaiyushu to take a bath. However, before cooking, he thought for a moment, and said to Wang Qiaiyushu, "Where are the 2 turtles?" Wang Qiaiyushu quickly put the bag behind him. "You just promised me that you wouldn't eat them." He waved his hand. "Who said I was going to eat them? Don't you think they stink? And there's all that black dirt stuck on them. I just want to clean them." Wang Qiaiyushu handed the bag over doubtfully. He took out a basin directly, then put the 2 turtles in it, then took some water from the bucket, and put it in the basin, and really helped the 2 turtles rub. Wang Qiaiyushu was relieved. After rubbing them clean, he changed the water again. During this process, the 2 turtles shrank into their shells, and didn't move at all. Only after they confirmed that there was no danger did they stick their heads out, followed by their limbs, and soon began to swim in the basin. Wang Qiaiyushu's heart melted. How cute. Come to think of it, I haven't seen any animals since the apocalypse. Then, she picked up the bucket, and prepared to take a bath. He grabbed Wang Qiaiyushu and said, "Wait a minute." Wang Qiaiyushu was puzzled. "What's wrong?" He looked at the 2 turtles. "It takes a certain amount of time for the poison to take effect. Let's see if they are okay first." Wang Qiaiyushu immediately reacted. "You actually use them to test the poison. It's really too much." He turned his head and looked at Wang Qiaiyushu. "Then why don't you go take a shower? It's best to drink a sip while you're taking a shower. If you don't turn into a zombie or die of poisoning, and if you don't have any adverse reactions, I can cook with confidence." Wang Qiaiyushu chuckled twice. "I think you are really too smart. As the saying goes, those who have done nothing will not be left with food. The 2 of us have to go out every day to find something to eat, let alone them. So, testing the poison is their job." He nodded and looked at the 2 turtles again. However, he still felt unsafe. After all, these 2 turtles could survive in the rotten, smelly and black water just now. Maybe they have already mutated or have antibodies. So, even if the water is not clean, they may not be in trouble. At this time, the system's voice suddenly sounded, specially providing water quality testing services. He was stunned. The system must have bad intentions when it came out at this time. It probably wanted to cheat him again. However, he still asked, "What kind of service is this? Can you be more specific?" System, this is a one-time service. It can help you test whether all the current water is clean, whether it is polluted, and whether it contains bacteria or viruses. He nodded. It sounds good. What's the price? System, just deduct a little experience points. Sure enough, it took advantage of the fire and wanted to cheat his experience points again. But he still smiled and said, "Only a little, that's quite cheap. However, a bottle of healing medicine is only 2 points. If something happens, can't I just drink the healing medicine? If nothing happens, I won't even save a little experience." System, healing medicine can only heal wounds, and mutations will not cause damage to the body, so healing medicine will not work. And the environment where this water was previously in was not clean, so there is a high possibility that it has been contaminated by the virus. He was stunned for a moment. If I become a zombie, will I still retain consciousness? Will the system still exist? System, at that time, it will be assumed that the host is dead, and the system will detach itself and look for a new host. He was speechless, and finally said, "Go ahead and try it. Isn't it just a little experience? I can afford it." System, ding, deduct a little experience. The water quality test has been completed. In view of the fact that the 2 turtles did not show any discomfort, the system determines that the water quality is qualified and can be drunk. He only felt a surge of blood rushing to the top of his head. System, come here, I will give you a buff. By the way, I'm not exhausted this time, I can definitely do it. System, additional service. The system just found that this water is still slightly polluted due to long-term storage, although it can be drunk after being boiled. However, the system decided to provide a service, that is, water purification. Now this water has reached the level of mountain spring water, and it can be drunk directly without being boiled. He felt a little better, but still asked, "Is this true or false? I didn't see any changes in this water. Are you trying to trick me again? What if I die directly after drinking it?" System, if it dies, then change the host. No, the system is honest and trustworthy. If it says there is no problem with this water, then there is no problem. He was speechless. Forget it, it's better to boil it. I really don't trust you. At this time, Wan Kyushu on the side was impatient. Then can this water be used? He nodded. It should be fine. You can go take a shower. Wan Kyushu then walked into the bathroom with a bucket. These rental buildings are equipped with a toilet and a kitchen in each room, and there is a bed in the living room, and there is not much space left for activities. The toilet is a bathroom, and you can take a shower there. Outside the toilet is a simple kitchen. He first replaced the gas cylinder. Wan Kyushu's gas cylinder was almost used up, and it was definitely not enough to cook a meal. He brought back these new gas cylinders from the restaurant. There were several of them, which were enough for a long time. Then, he took out the mushrooms, sausages, ham, dried fish, etc., cut a little of each, and soaked them in water. Then, he peeled the carrots. These carrots were not very fresh, so they had to be eaten soon. At this time, Wan Kyushu came out. "What are you going to cook tonight?" He pointed at the dishes, and then asked, "Aren't you going to take a shower?" Wan Kyushu's face turned a little red. "I'm not used to taking a shower in front of others." He was stunned for a moment. "Isn't there a door blocking it? How can you say you are taking a shower in front of me? Besides, didn't we take a shower like this a few days ago?" Wan Kyushu's face turned even redder. "I was just wiping my body a few days ago, which doesn't count as a shower. Otherwise, you can take these things outside." He looked at the sky. "It's okay for me to take them outside to wash, but I will definitely come back to cook later. It's getting dark now, and when you finish taking a shower, you won't be able to see anything. How can you cook then?" Wan Kyushu thought for a while. Cooking is more important. He turned around and walked in again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Candlelight Dinner. He didn't think much about it. He really had to hurry up. Before, he just put water in to cook rice. It didn't matter. Now he had to cook. If he did it in the dark, he couldn't be sure whether the food was cooked. If it was burnt, it would be inedible. While thinking, he put water in, put the washed rice in, and then put 2 Chinese sausages on top. Then, he started to fry the bacon. Since there were no side dishes, he just simply stir-fried it. As for the water used to soak the bacon, he poured it directly into the pot with the carrots, and boiled the carrots. It just so happened that the carrots didn't have much water left. This way, they could absorb some water and taste less woody, and saved a lot of water. And the water contained salt from soaking the bacon, so even salt was saved. Finally, he fried the fish, because fish has a fishy smell. If this dish is cooked first, the fishy smell of the fish is not easy to wash off, which will cause the dishes behind to be stained with the fishy smell and affect the taste of the dishes. After finishing, he served these dishes on the table. Since there were only 2 people eating, he didn't cook too much to avoid waste. Although he had harvested a lot today, it was still scarce. If he didn't find new food later, he would have nothing to eat. After finishing all this, the rice was cooked, so he served 2 bowls of rice, each with a sausage on top. At this time, Wan Qiushu also came out. She was wiping her wet hair with a towel, but her nose was twitching. What a nice smell. I can already smell the aroma of bacon. He took out a candle, lit it with a lighter, and placed it in the middle of the table. Well, the food is ready, just in time to eat. Wan Qiushu nodded. Do you want to wait for you to finish your shower first? He shook his head. No, the food is still hot. Let's eat first. I'll wash the dishes and other things later, and then wipe my body. Wan Qiushu said and then asked with a red face, you didn't peek at me taking a shower just now, did you? He took a step back and looked at her fearfully. You found out about all this? Wan Qiushu's face turned even redder. Pervert. He couldn't help laughing. If I peeked at you taking a shower, how would I have time to cook? Besides, the door is closed so tightly, and it's not transparent. How could I peek? Wan Qiushu blushed. She put the towel away, then snorted and sat down directly. Then how would I know? I won't say any more. I'm so hungry. He sat opposite Wan Qiushu. Well, let's eat. I'm very hungry too. I've been moving things all day. Wan Qiushu picked up the chopsticks and only then saw that there was a sausage on the rice. She picked it up and took a bite. Sweet. He nodded. Yes, Cantonese sausages are all sweet. Wan Qiushu chewed a few times and swallowed the sausage. There are actually sweet sausages. It's simply heresy. He nodded again. You're right. Since you like salty food, you definitely can't eat this sausage. Let me do it. By the way, you probably can't eat the rice below. Give it to me all, and I'll cook you a new one. As he spoke, he reached out to take Wan Qiushu's bowl. Wan Qiushu took up the bowl first. Is the rice sweet too? He took his hand back. Yes, because the sausage is steamed with the rice, which saves some effort and gas. At the same time, the aroma and fat of the sausage will slowly flow out and be absorbed by the rice. In this way, the rice will have the taste of sausage. So, if you can't get used to it, I can just eat one more portion and you just wait a while. Wan Qiushu picked up the sausage again and took a bite. Who said I can't get used to it? Besides, if it's cooked again, then wouldn't I just be able to watch you eat? That's so cruel. He laughed. Why do I feel that forcing salty people to eat sweet is even more cruel? I thought you didn't care about this. I should have asked you earlier. Wan Qiushu took another bite of rice at this time. Well, it smells so good. The rice is full of the aroma of sausage. Besides, it doesn't feel so unacceptable to eat. I even feel so happy now. He also took a bite of the sausage. Well, maybe it's because it's sweet. Because sweetness can stimulate the body's dopamine secretion and make people happy. So, when you are unhappy, you can eat some sweets. Wan Qiushu paused. Where are the sweets now? Not even snacks. He smiled. It's okay. There is a convenience store downstairs from the restaurant. There should be a lot of snacks in it. Of course, the premise is that it has not been looted. Wang Qiuyushu hurriedly said, okay, then our goal tomorrow is the convenience store. I want to move all the snacks in it back. After he swallowed the rice, he said, you are too greedy, and eating too many snacks will make you fat. Wang Qiuyushu thought for a while. Don't worry, I won't get fat. Besides, with the amount of exercise we do every day, let alone gaining weight, it's good enough not to lose weight. He nodded. That's right. You exercise more than me. Eat more. Bacon and fish are good. Don't worry about these two. They are both salty. Wang Qiuyushu picked up a piece of each and tried them. It's delicious. Fortunately, I met you. Otherwise I wouldn't know how to cook, even if I got these ingredients. By the way, why don't you see the ham? He shook his head. Ham is too difficult to cut, and there is not enough time, so I didn't make it today. Wang Qiuyushu picked up another piece of boiled carrot. So that's how it is. I'll try this. Then, her face turned ugly, but she finally forced herself to swallow it. He was speechless. Actually, if you can't eat it, you can spit it out. There's no need to force yourself. After all, the carrots were not fresh, and the taste would definitely not be very good. Wang Qiuyushu shook his head. It's wrong to waste food, and it's also disrespectful to the chef. Besides, this carrot is what I risked my life for, so of course I have to eat it. He smiled. It's okay, the carrots are here. We don't have to eat this in the future. We can eat potatoes. They are still fresh. Wang Qiuyushu smiled. Then can we eat potatoes cooked in different ways every day? He replied. There's no other way. We only have potatoes, and a good cook cannot cook without rice. Wang Qiuyushu smiled even more happily. Are you a good cook or a good husband? He thought for a while. Anyway, you are responsible for fighting, and I'm responsible for cooking. There's nothing wrong with being a good cook. The breeze blew in from the window, and the candlelight flickered, bringing a ray of light to the room. Chapter 36 Wang Qiuyushu's confusion. It was the first time for them to have such a sumptuous meal after the apocalypse, and they had a great harvest today, so they ate very happily, and finished all the food in a short while. He smiled and said, the plates for the dishes are as clean as new, no need to wash them. By the way, are you full? If not, I will cook 2 sweet potatoes for midnight snack. Wang Qiuyushu shook her head. No, I ate most of the dishes just now, how could I not be full? On the contrary, you didn't eat much, so I'll cook if you want. He said while cleaning up the dishes. I'm full too, so I won't cook, to save trouble. Wang Qiuyushu suddenly said, why don't you let me wash it? You go take a shower, and you can go to bed early later. He was stunned for a moment, but said, forget it, let me do it. Your hands are not suitable for getting wet. Wang Qiuyushu smiled. I'm not a young lady, my fingers don't touch the water. What's the problem with washing the dishes? He shook his head. Have you forgotten that I felt the same as you during the battle? So I know your physical condition very well. You have been swinging the hammer of the earth these 2 days. Although it is not very heavy, you have never done such rough work before, so your hands have blisters. It will be very painful if the blisters are broken when you wash the dishes later. Wang Qiuyushu's face suddenly turned red. You just said that you know my physical condition very well. Then, when I was transforming, did you peek or do anything? He was stunned for a few seconds, then said unhappily, of course not. I'm not a pervert. How could I do such things? What's more, the transformation only takes a few minutes, not enough time to kill zombies. How can I have time to do this? Wang Qiuyushu doubted. Really? But when I transformed, I had no consciousness at all. Even if you did it, I wouldn't know. He turned around and went out with the dishes and chopsticks. I can't help it. If you don't believe me, you can't let me kill zombies with a selfie stick. Wang Qiuyushu thought about it. That's not very realistic. Forget it. I'll believe you for now. With his back to Wang Qiuyushu, he heaved a sigh of relief. He did not peek, nor did he do anything. However, Wang Qiuyushu was so big that, even if he did not look at it on purpose, he could not ignore it completely. Moreover, when killing zombies, whenever he swung the hammer of the earth, he would inevitably touch it, but he did not pay attention to it at that time. Besides, even if he saw or touched it, it was the behavior of Wang Qiuyushu's body and had nothing to do with his body. So it should not count. However, he would not say it, otherwise he would definitely be regarded as a pervert by Wang Qiuyushu. Even if Wang Qiuyushu could understand, it was usually embarrassing. After washing the dishes, he went in and wiped his body. There was too little water, so he had to use it sparingly. When he came out, Wang Qiuyushu was already lying on the bed, and the candle on the table was still burning. He thought about it, and did not blow out the candle. He might as well be extravagant tonight. Then, he lay back on his mat, and prepared to sleep. At this time, Wang Qiuyushu suddenly said, "I never thought that the first candlelight dinner I would have in my life would be like this." He was stunned for a moment. Actually, this can't be considered a candlelight dinner. Maybe there will be opportunities in the future, or maybe one day the country will develop a vaccine, and then all the zombies will be cleared away, and people's lives will return to their original track. Wang Qiuyushu said again, "I used to think that a candlelight dinner was like in the movies. The hero and heroine sit in a dim corner, the candlelight on the table flickers, and then the two of them eat Western food and chat, and there is melodious music next to them, maybe a violin, or a piano." He didn't say anything else. Sure enough, Wang Qiuyushu continued, "Although it looks very romantic, I always feel like something is missing. Now I understand, their background is too dark, so dark that there is only a little light from the candles. But we are different. Our candles are very bright, they can illuminate the entire room, and illuminate my heart as well." He thought for a moment and asked, "Are you okay?" Wang Qiuyushu asked back, "Do you think I'm a very selfish person?" He said directly, "No, I don't think so at all." Wang Qiuyushu paused before saying, "Actually, when I first heard them crying for help, my first thought was not to save them, but to think, if we save them, then do we have to share our food with them? What if we don't have enough to eat? I think I'm so selfish." So when they scolded me, I actually felt a little relieved. He nodded. It turned out that Wang Qiuyushu paused in front of the apartment to think about this problem. Wang Qiuyushu continued, "Just now after finishing my meal, I felt that I was finally full. Then, I thought of them again. They must be hungry now. Even worse, they will starve to death if they cannot be rescued. Do you think that we indirectly killed them by not rescuing them?" He laughed out loud. "So that's why you did that?" Wang Qiuyushu sat up from the bed and looked at him with a puzzled look on his face. He also sat up. "Humans are selfish by nature, so there is nothing wrong with your thoughts and actions. If it were normal times, it would certainly not be right to not rescue people in danger. But don't forget, we are in the end of the world now." What is the end of the world? The end of the world means that all resources are limited, including food, drink, and daily necessities. Once these things are used up, they will be gone, unless humans can settle down and start producing again. This means that they will all be our competitors, so there is no need for us to save them. Wang Qiuyushu sighed. He went on, "Besides, how did we get everything we have? Since the first day we cooperated with the landlady, we have been working hard every day. We exchanged our lives for these things. Why should we share them with them? Especially on the first day, you and I are ordinary people, and it was with wisdom and courage that we killed the landlady. What about them? They only knew how to wait for others to rescue them, but never thought about saving themselves. Even if we rescued such people, they would not live long in this doomsday. So, even if they eventually starved to death, it was their own fault. It has nothing to do with us, and you don't need to feel guilty." Wang Qiuyushu murmured, "Yes, it was their own fault. We have no obligation to save them at all." Chapter 37 The question of saving or not saving. "At this time," he said, "moreover, those people are not worth saving at all. At the beginning, they treated us as their lifeline and wanted to grab us, but after being rejected by us, they cursed at us. People like this are ungrateful at first glance. If I didn't have to deal with the zombies in the building before I could deal with them, I would have rushed in long ago." Wang Qiuyushu nodded and asked, "What if we meet a group of good people? Don't save them either?" He said affirmatively, "No." Wang Qiuyushu was stunned. "Why? They are not ungrateful." He smiled. "I just said that people are selfish, including me. There is only so much food, and with our current capabilities, we can't feed other people. So, I won't save them. At most I will lend a helping hand when they are trying to survive. Similarly, the so-called good people are also selfish, and you can't judge whether the other person is a good person based on the first impression. After all, you can't judge a person's heart by his appearance. Maybe there really are such good people, but in this doomsday, the probability of meeting them is too low. We can't gamble, and we can't afford to gamble. If we lose the bet, we may even lose our lives. Wang Qiaiyushu was stunned for a moment. No way. If he is a good person, he will definitely not do that kind of thing. He smiled. Human nature is very fragile, and it cannot withstand the test. You don't know what people will do until that moment. Wang Qiaiyushu still didn't quite believe it. He added, have you ever heard of exchanging one's own children for food? Wang Qiaiyushu looked at him in horror. This city doesn't refer to a person's child, does it? He nodded. This idiom originally refers to the spring and autumn period when the state of Song was besieged, and the food in the city was eaten up, so the people exchanged their children for food. Later it was used to describe the miserable lives of the victims. Wang Qiaiyushu nervously grabbed the quilt. How could they have the heart to do it? He shook his head. Yes, they couldn't bear to kill their own children, so they just exchanged them with others, as long as they were not their own children. In fact, such things also happened in the famine years that followed, but of course they were not common. I just want to use this to illustrate that once people are extremely hungry, they may do anything, let alone something as trivial as killing someone. Wang Qiaiyushu looked horrified. I believe that most people will still stick to their bottom line. At least I won't do such a thing, let alone kill anyone. He sighed. You are you, and others are others. You cannot judge others' actions based on yourself. In the past, I could understand this kind of thing, but I couldn't agree with it. I think people still have a bottom line. At least they won't do such things until I experience the feeling of hunger myself. Wang Qiaiyushu quickly stepped back until his back was against the wall and stopped. You have eaten people too? He was speechless. What era is this? I'm not that kind of pervert. How could I eat people? Isn't pork delicious? Besides, killing is illegal, and eating people is even more illegal. Wang Qiaiyushu asked in horror. Then what do you mean by what you said just now? He began to recall. My former junior high school teacher once gave us a lesson. He said that, when he was in college, his teacher told them that as a college student, they should pay attention to their image, and not run around in slippers and shorts. So, I often remind myself to pay attention to my image when I go out. Of course, it's easier said than done. So, sometimes for the sake of convenience, I don't care so much. However, I have never eaten outside, even snacks, because I think the way I eat is not elegant and it affects my image. Until one time, I didn't eat for the whole morning and noon, and I was very hungry. I didn't care about anything at that time. I just took out a bag of biscuits from my bag and ate them while standing on the street. At that time, I was thinking, who cares about the image? Image is not as important as filling the stomach. It was also from that time that I knew that people's bottom line is very low and can be easily broken. Wang Qiaiyushu still insisted, but if they are good people, they won't be like this. He smiled. When they are hungry, even for a pack of instant noodles, those so-called good people will definitely kill us without hesitation. Wang Qiaiyushu thought for a while, but the two of us are so powerful, they can't beat us. He sighed. What if we both have finished transforming and are in a state of exhaustion? Let alone them. A child can take our lives. Wang Qiaiyushu was silent for a long time and suddenly asked, what if you and I are trapped in this room and there is not much food left? What will you do? He thought for a while. I will go out and fight, leaving the food for you, and by the way, give you a chance to survive. Wang Qiaiyushu was stunned. No, I can't go out. I can only stay here. He pondered for a while. I will commit suicide. Wang Qiaiyushu was stunned. Why? Didn't you say that when you are extremely hungry, it is possible to eat people? I thought you thought about it for so long, because you were thinking about how to kill me. He smiled. Killing you is not a simple thing. You can't win me without turning into a zombie. Even if you turn into a zombie, I have a 50% chance of killing you. However, I thought about it for so long just now, actually thinking, is there a better way? Wang Qiuyushu was speechless. So you think of suicide? He smiled. Yes, suicide is the best. It can save food and let you live a few more days. I don't have to starve to death. It's a win-win situation. Wang Qiuyushu shook her head. You could have killed me. Why did you choose to commit suicide? Or are you lying? In fact, this is not what you are thinking at all. He said directly, because you are a woman. Wang Qiuyushu was stunned for a moment. Are you looking down on women? He said quickly. Of course not. Wait, are you a boxer too? Don't fight. I can't stand it. Wang Qiuyushu laughed out loud. He added, you are a woman, I'm a man, and a man should be a gentleman, so the chance to survive should of course be left to you, even if you can only live a few more days. This, I forgot where I learned it. Wang Qiuyushu's eyes were red, but she couldn't see clearly in the dim candlelight. She just said big idiot, and lay back on the bed. Chapter 38. Wang Qiuyushu takes the initiative. The words big idiot made him feel confused. Why was he scolded all of a sudden? Or was it because he made the wrong choice? Finally, he kept thinking about this question until he fell asleep. The next morning, Wang Qiuyushu got up early. She remembered that she had to go to the convenience store to collect food today, so she couldn't wait. Then, he got up too. Considering that there would be another big battle soon, physical exhaustion was inevitable, so he simply cooked directly and made the bacon and other things again yesterday. However, this time, he didn't boil the radish, but fried potatoes instead, and the oil used was the oil that flowed out when frying the bacon. After Wang Qiuyushu finished washing up, he looked at the back. It smells so good, but don't you think it's greasy to eat these in the morning? He nodded. Although it's greasy, it can fill your stomach. If you only drink porridge, you will be hungry in a while. If you don't want to eat these, leave them to me. Wang Qiuyushu swallowed his saliva. That won't work. I'm the main force in the battle. How can I not eat enough? He nodded, then handed the spatula to Wang Qiuyushu. Then I'll leave it to you. Just stir fry it every few minutes. I'll go wash up. Wang Qiuyushu took it blankly. Then, they ate a plate of burnt fried potatoes. Wang Qiuyushu said embarrassedly, I have tried my best to stir fry it, but I didn't expect that there would be some fish that slipped through the net. He smiled and took a piece of potato with a burnt surface and put it into his mouth. It's okay, just treat it as fried potatoes. This burnt one tastes better. Don't fight with me. Wang Qiuyushu didn't quite believe it, so she also picked up a piece, but when she put it in her mouth, she found a burnt taste, and it tasted slightly bitter. After chewing it twice, she looked at Li Wending. You lied to me again. He shook his head. Everyone has their own preferences. I didn't lie to you. I really think this one tastes better. I told you not to fight with me for it, but you didn't listen. Wang Qiuyushu lowered her head and ate sullenly. After eating, the two came downstairs. Wang Qiuyushu was fully armed and wielded the hammer of the earth in his hand. He checked Wang Qiuyushu. Well, it's fine. Nothing wrong. Wang Qiuyushu looked straight at him. Why are you so nice to me? He was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Are you talking about the potatoes just now? Because you have to fight. If you get an upset stomach, it will be troublesome. Wang Qiuyushu frowned. Be serious. He put away his smile. Well, because you are my teammate, I rely on you to survive now, so I can't let you get into trouble. She nodded. Is that so? Then, she opened her arms and greeted him. He was stunned. He had always taken the initiative before, every time. Although Wang Qiuyushu was no longer so resistant as the number of times increased, it was still the first time she took the initiative. The next second, he felt something slippery sticking out of his mouth. He subconsciously stuck out his tongue to greet it, and at the same time, his hands unconsciously hugged Wang Qiuyushu. At this moment, he suddenly felt Wang Qiuyushu's nails poking his back and hurting him. He quickly looked up and saw a pair of blood-red eyes. He quickly pushed Wang Qiuyushu away and said, stand still and change your perspective. Wang Qiuyushu stood there blankly. He shook his head. What happened to Wang Qiuyushu today? But now she was unconscious, so it was useless to ask. Fortunately, after she transformed, she did not attack him directly. Otherwise, he would be finished now. Without thinking anymore, Wan Kyushu directly swung the hammer of the earth next to her, holding 2 buckets in her hands, and walked out. Li Wending's original body closed the door after she went out. When passing by the apartment, those people started to curse again. It was estimated that they had already given up. Wan Kyushu's transformation time was limited, so naturally she would not waste time with these people, but she still turned around and glanced at the people upstairs. After seeing that it was a zombie that appeared this time, those people immediately shut up. After all, there was no point in scolding a zombie. Although, they were also very surprised that this zombie was wearing thick clothes and swinging a hammer and carrying a bucket. Moreover, zombies that can use weapons are not easy to deal with. They don't want to lead such zombies into the building, otherwise they will be finished. Since it takes a long way to get to the convenience store, although it is not very far, it takes time after all, and there may be other zombies on the way. So Wan Kyushu simply ran. When passing by the restaurant, she saw from the corner of her eye that the bodies of the chef and the zombie in suits were still well placed inside, but they had begun to rot. She was relieved immediately, at least no other zombies were attracted. She could only hope that these bodies would rot soon, otherwise if another level 1 zombie was raised and 2 were eaten at the same time, it might gain the abilities of these 2 zombies, and then she would have a bigger headache. Going down from the restaurant, there is an electrical appliance repair shop, and next to it is a fast food restaurant that has gone bankrupt. There is nothing to collect in these 2 stores, so just ignore them. Further down, there is a store selling cold dishes. Even if there are cold dishes, they are not edible now, and there is nothing else to eat in them, so you can just skip it. Continuing on, we came to another closed fast food restaurant. The fried rice in this restaurant tasted average, but the most important thing was that it was large in quantity and filling. Wan Kyushu licked her lips. It had been so long, and it would probably be hard to find fresh eggs. Unless we could raise some poultry like chickens and ducks in the future, we would never be able to eat fried rice in the future. Further down, there was a henna noodle restaurant, which should have a lot of noodles and vermicelli, but considering that the main purpose of today was not this, we skipped it for now. Moreover, there were several zombies in it, and it would take some effort to get rid of them. Then, it was also a fast food restaurant, but this one mainly did takeout. The family of 4 in it had all turned into zombies, and we could see the child zombies running around happily in it. Wan Kyushu couldn't help but look across the street, and then breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the kindergarten opposite had been moved to another place due to demolition. Otherwise, with dozens of children turning into zombies, plus dozens of parents and teachers who came to pick up their children, it was estimated that it was very likely that a level 2 zombie would be raised, and she would not be able to defeat it. Further down, there was a barber shop, so she skipped it. Then, she finally saw her goal for today, convenience store. Here I come. Chapter 39 Fat House Package. Wan Kyushu took long steps, swung the hammer of the earth, and rushed directly to the convenience store with a bucket in her hand. When the zombies in the store saw her figure, they all rushed to the glass door, but because they couldn't get out, they could only open their mouths and rage helplessly. She ignored the zombies, pushed open the glass door of the convenience store, and walked in. The convenience store was in a mess, with all kinds of snacks and daily necessities scattered everywhere. A long black drag mark left by the dried blood could be seen on the ground. It was estimated that the owner of the convenience store was in danger. As for why it was blood, not the black liquid, that flowed out of the zombies, because she didn't smell the rancid smell of the black liquid in this convenience store. However, for safety reasons, she still carefully took a look at the environment of the store. This convenience store is only more than 20 square meters, and the area is not large, so there are several shelves, and the shelves are full of things. Of course, now these shelves have fallen down, and there is no place to hide within the range visible to the naked eye, so there should be no zombies here. Wan Kyushu put the hammer of the earth within reach, and then placed the bucket horizontally on the ground. Without even looking at it, she directly used her hands to push snacks into it until it was full. Then, she took another bucket and filled it up as well. When passing by the refrigerator, she opened it again and took out 2 bottles of Fat House Happy Water. At this time, there was only more than a minute left before the transformation was over. She directly picked up 2 buckets of snacks with the hammer of the earth and ran back with her long legs while holding the fat house happy water in her other hand. In order to save experience, she did not use the scanner. She did not know the situation nearby, so it was better to go back as soon as possible. Because it was too full and she was running too fast, the snacks kept falling all the way and the last road was full of snacks. She did not bother to pick them up and finally got back to the building before the transformation was over. However, this scene stunned the people upstairs. They did not bother to look at Wang Qiushu, but drooled at the snacks on the ground. They wished their arms could be more than 10 meters long so that they could pick up snacks on the ground. Li Wending opened the door and welcomed Wang Qiushu in, and then the 2 of them lay on the ground together. Wang Qiushu woke up quickly and looked at him with a slightly red face, but the next second she saw the snacks in the bucket and rushed over. Wow, so many snacks, my favorite potato chips, and fat otaku happy water. It's a pity that the refrigerator can't be used now, otherwise I could drink frozen ones. He moved his throat, but in the end he didn't ask about what happened just now, just pretending it didn't happen, to avoid embarrassment for everyone. At this time, Wang Qiushu asked again, but why are these 2 buckets only half full? He said a little embarrassedly, because there was not enough time to come back. I ran back, so they all spilled. Wang Qiushu said oh, and soon laughed again. That's great, I have snacks again. By the way, are there still a lot in the store? He nodded. Yes, there are still a lot, and I took a rough look at the situation on the road and didn't see any zombies. After you transform later, we will clear the zombies in other stores first, and then scan the surrounding environment. If there is no problem, we will move directly, without so much trouble. Wang Qiushu glanced at him quietly, his face a little red, but soon pretended to be nothing. Well, let's talk about it, after I have a good rest. I want to empty the convenience store. I really want to eat snacks and drink fat house happy water every day without going out to fight zombies. He smiled and said, when we don't have to worry about food, we can do it, but not now. This city has so many people, there will always be powerful survivors, so we have to collect more things before them. Besides, food and snacks have a shelf life and can't be preserved for a long time. Wang Qiushu pretended to ask casually, but the ability of the 2 of us is limited. Have you ever considered finding some more people to help? If there are more assistants, it will be faster to collect things. He sighed. Let's talk about it later. We haven't met the right one yet. First of all, we have to trust them, and they have to be willing to become zombies in that way. It's a pity that the system is not powerful. If there is a way to change without this, it can be injections or medication, and it can always keep the zombie form under his control. Then he will immediately turn those people upstairs into zombies and work for him, so that he can sit back and enjoy the benefits. He can even directly form a zombie army and sweep all the way. Wang Qiushu suddenly snorted coldly, then tore open a bag of potato chips and stuffed a handful into his mouth. He didn't understand why, but he still reminded her, you'd better check whether the expiration date has expired, so as not to get an upset stomach. The main source of customers for this kind of convenience store is the tenants who live nearby, but tenants generally don't buy snacks in the store. Therefore, the snacks inside are often piled up for a long time. He almost bought a sausage that was expired for several months. Wang Qiushu stopped chewing. Her mouth was full of potato chips, and her cheeks were bulging. She looked at Li Wending, then looked at the production date on the bag, and then continued to eat. He laughed out loud. Wang Qiushu glared at him. Did you tease me on purpose just now? He waved his hand. No, I just thought you were so funny just now, like a squirrel. No, not funny, but cute. Wang Qiushu's face looked better, and he handed him the potato chips. Do you want some too? He took the potato chips. Eating can replenish energy, and your physical strength will recover faster. Wang Qiushu opened another bottle of Fat House Happy Water at this time, and took a sip directly. Ah, comfortable. Then he handed it to him again. He took a look. I forgot to bring some disposable cups just now. Does this count as an indirect kiss? Wang Qiuyushu's face immediately turned red. You'll die of thirst if you don't drink it, or you can open another bottle yourself. He hurriedly said, no need, one bottle is enough. If you open another bottle, you won't be able to finish it, and it won't taste good if it's kept for a long time. Wang Qiuyushu was angry and said, do you dislike me? He shook his head repeatedly. No, I'm mainly afraid that you won't be able to drink it after I drink it. Wang Qiuyushu turned his head away. Then why did you awaken such a strange ability to transform? Chapter 40 Going to the convenience store. He really had no way to answer Wang Qiuyushu's question. If he had to blame someone, he should blame the system for having to come up with such a vulgar method. System, I only asked you to exchange saliva with the other party, but I didn't let you choose this method. You can spit saliva into the cup, and the same goes for the auxiliary, and then you can transform. As for the host becoming what it is today, it is entirely because of your dirty thoughts. I heard that there is a place called No Sexuation Bar, and I suggest that the host go there to learn. He almost spit out all the potato chips. System, I'm eating. Can you not say it so disgustingly? Moreover, is there a big difference between that and my current method? Speaking of which, when will there be a simpler way to transform? System, the host's level is not high enough, so I can't answer the host for the time being. He was stunned and didn't expect there would be an unexpected surprise. In that case, it is really possible that this method of transformation will not be needed in the future. That's good. It avoids embarrassment for everyone, and it's not a big deal if you don't say it, but it's really a bit disgusting when you say it now. So, he stuffed another handful of potato chips into his mouth. Well, that's much better. Next, the two of them ate potato chips and drank Fat House Happy Water, but they didn't chat anymore. Only after recovering his strength did Wang Qiuyushu look at him with a red face. Come on. He saw Wang Qiuyushu's appearance and laughed again. Wang Qiuyushu looked at himself and asked puzzledly, is there anything funny about me? He nodded. I just realized that you are just a yellow safety helmet away from those old guys who run away with buckets on the construction site. Wang Qiuyushu also laughed. Now that you put it that way, it's quite similar. The two laughed, and the awkward atmosphere dissipated a lot, and then Wang Qiuyushu transformed again and walked out. However, this time they were going to kill zombies, so the bucket was left behind, and Li Wending's original body would take it over later. Wang Qiuyushu rushed over with the hammer of the earth. This time, the main target was the zombies in the noodle shop and the fast food restaurant. In addition, if there were any old bastards hiding, they would have to rely on scanning. Due to the continuous hard battles in the past 2 days, Wang Qiuyushu had accumulated a lot of combat experience at this time. Especially the 2 hard battles with the chef zombie and the suit zombie. They benefited a lot. Therefore, these low-level zombies locked in the house were no match for Wang Qiuyushu. What's more, when they saw Wang Qiuyushu's red eyes, they suddenly became terrified and dared not resist at all. Therefore, Wang Qiuyushu was not polite at all, and killed them one by one with a hammer. After solving the zombies in these 2 houses, Wang Qiuyushu said directly, use the scanner. The next second, she directly entered a 3-dimensional space and covered all the houses nearby. It can be seen that the first floors of these houses are empty, with no living people or zombies. From the second floor upwards, red dots began to appear, distributed on each floor. However, no green dots were seen. I don't know if it was too unlucky that all the living people turned into zombies, or if they were all eaten by zombies. Then, she withdrew, sat on the chair and said, cancel the transformation. Li Wending's sight quickly returned to his original body, and at the same time, he felt weak. However, it didn't take too long this time, so he still had enough energy. He stretched his body, then carried the bucket to where Wang Qiuyushu was. Wang Qiuyushu sat in the store and didn't move. First, she could take a break, and second, she didn't know what was going on outside. Seeing Li Wending coming in, she smiled and said, you look like you're going to run away with the bucket. He looked at his clothes helplessly. Because he hadn't washed them to save water, his clothes were all dirty. He shook his head. How did you rest? Wang Qiuyushu stood up. Not bad, but I have to wait a while if I want to transform. By the way, what's the situation around here? Are you sure it's safe? He nodded. There's no problem on the first floor. There are quite a few zombies upstairs, but no living people. Wang Qiuyushu thought for a while, will the zombies upstairs hear our noise and run out? He guessed, probably not. You made such a big noise downstairs just now. If they wanted to run out, they would have run out long ago. I guess they are locked in the building and can't get out at all. If you feel worried, then wait here until your strength recovers, and then we can go out. If there is any accident, we can transform in time. Wang Qiuyushu looked at the corpse next to him. How far is that convenience store from here? He said directly. It's closer than the distance from our building to the seafood restaurant. Wang Qiuyushu picked up the hammer. Let's go. It's too smelly here. We really can't stay here. The door of the convenience store should be closed to keep the zombies out. He followed behind with a bucket. That convenience store also has sliding doors. As long as we use something to block it, the zombies can't get in. Wang Qiuyushu walked out quickly. He followed closely behind, paying attention to the surrounding environment. Wang Qiuyushu glanced at the opposite side and suddenly asked, why did those houses collapse? Could it be that zombies did it? He was stunned for a few seconds before saying, if there were such powerful zombies, we would have been finished long ago. Those are the houses that were demolished, but the doomsday came before they were completed. It is precisely because of the demolition that there are so few zombies here. Otherwise there is no telling how many zombies there would be in those rental buildings alone. However, also because of the demolition, many fast food restaurants here have moved away. Otherwise, we would have enough to eat for a long time just by looting fast food restaurants. After all, these fast food restaurants usually have good business, and the rice and flour stored must not be less. Wang Qiuyushu nodded. I see. Then our luck is pretty good. Otherwise, we would either be exhausted or encounter many high-level zombies, even higher than me, which would be more dangerous. He smiled. That's right. Especially at the beginning. There was only one zombie in our building. If there were more, we might not be able to kill them all. While the two were talking, they arrived at the convenience store, and Wang Qiuyushu pushed the door open and walked in. He followed him in, and then took a look outside. There were indeed no zombies. But to be on the safe side, he still moved a shelf to hold up the door, so that it could at least block it for a while, giving Wang Qiuyushu time to transform. Chapter 41. The Mummy in the Convenience Store. Walking into the store, Wang Qiuyushu saw the black blood stain at a glance, and couldn't help but ask curiously, is this the black liquid of the zombies that has dried up? He shook his head. My guess is human blood, and it is very likely the owner's. Wang Qiuyushu glanced at him. What's your basis? He cleared his throat. First of all, this is not very black, but a dark red color, which is usually only like this after the blood dries up. Secondly, this drag mark is so long, it is obviously caused by someone dragging. Finally, we have been here for so long, and we haven't smelled the stench of black liquid, and we haven't seen the corpses of zombies here or outside, so it can only be human. Wang Qiuyushu kept walking forward along the trace. You didn't see it, maybe because you didn't look for it. Just follow this trace and you will find it. He hurriedly followed. Be careful, if this trace is really human, there may be zombies in it. Wang Qiuyushu looked back at him. Didn't you scan it? He was stunned for a moment. Oh, right, I forgot about this. Wang Qiuyushu smiled and walked forward again, but she held the hammer of the earth tightly in her hand to avoid any accidents. The drag marks continued to extend forward and finally came to a corner. A shelf was half tilted and supported by the corner of the wall, so it did not fall down completely. Under the shelf was a pile of snacks, piled up into a small mountain and scattered everywhere. Since there was no light in the convenience store and this was a corner, it was dark and not very clear. Wang Qiuyushu thought about it and stretched out the hammer of the earth directly, pushing aside the pile of snacks, but saw half of the pants and a pair of shoes exposed under the snacks, which immediately reminded her of a person's legs, and she was so scared that she quickly stepped back. He grabbed Wang Qiuyushu and said, "Don't be afraid. It's just a dead body at most, not a zombie. Go aside first, I'll go check the situation." Wang Qiuyushu calmed down immediately and handed over the hammer of the earth. Here, if he moves in any unusual way, hit him. He took the hammer of the earth, nodded, and then walked forward and lifted the shelf. Suddenly, the situation below became clearer. From the gap between the snacks, it was indeed possible to see that there was a person lying below. He used the hammer of the earth to carefully push aside the snacks below, and a whole person suddenly appeared. No, it should be said that it was a corpse. After all, it has been so many days. If it is not dead, it is either a zombie or a medical miracle. It should be sent for autopsy. The body was lying on its back on the ground, but it had become a mummy. It can only be seen that it was a middle-aged man, who should be the owner of this convenience store. He turned the owner's body with the hammer and immediately saw a big hole on the back of the owner's head. This also explains why there was so much blood on the ground. Wang Qiuyushu shouted from a distance, "Did you see what was going on?" He nodded and walked over with the hammer of the earth. It's a human corpse, but it has turned into a mummy, so there is no corpse odor here. Wang Qiuyushu asked curiously, "Then do you know the cause of death? How could he die here? And there is so much blood on the ground. Could he have been killed by zombies?" He sighed. If he was killed by zombies, they wouldn't have dragged him there to hide, and there would be no corpse left. There is a big hole on the back of his head. He should have been hit to death with a heavy object, and then bled profusely, and naturally left traces during the dragging process. Wang Qiuyushu looked at him with horror, and then said, "Then this is a homicide case. Call the police." He looked at Wang Qiuyushu speechlessly. "Wake up. It's the end of the world now. Where are the police? And there is no signal on the phone. How can we call the police? Not to mention homicide. Even if you kill as many people as you want, you will not be punished by law, because there is no order now." Wang Qiuyushu finally reacted after hearing this. "I forgot for a moment. After all, they said on TV before that, if there is something, you should call the police. By the way, how much hatred do you think that person has against the boss to be so cruel? And it happened at this time. The boss should have died when the doomsday happened. Otherwise he would have been discovered long ago. After the doomsday, there are zombies everywhere, which is even more impossible." He nodded. "You are smart for once. Remember what I told you yesterday? People can do anything when they are hungry." Wang Qiuyushu looked at him in horror. "You mean?" He sighed. "Combined with the time you just mentioned, there is only that possibility." Wang Qiuyushu didn't quite believe it, but they weren't hungry at that time. He thought about it. Maybe the process of becoming a zombie is fast or slow, so someone knew in advance that zombies appeared and understood that the doomsday was coming. So he thought about coming to this convenience store to steal some things and take them back for storage. As a result, he was obstructed by the convenience store owner, and in the end, he simply killed the convenience store owner. This can also explain why the things inside are scattered everywhere in a mess. Wang Qiuyushu was so scared that her mouth couldn't close. After a while, she asked again, "Do you think that person is alive, dead, or turned into a zombie?" He shook his head. "I don't know, but at least there are no corpses here or outside, and there are no zombies here. So, he is very likely still alive, or turned into a zombie. Of course, it would be best if he was dead. After all, if it is the first two possibilities, I don't want to meet him." Wang Qiuyushu was puzzled. "Why? Shouldn't we kill him to avenge the convenience store owner?" He smiled. "We have no relatives or friends with the convenience store owner. Is it necessary? Besides, there will be many such things in the future, and human life is worthless in troubled times." Wang Qiuyushu thought for a while. "Then don't kill him, just cripple him. As for the reason, we came to the convenience store to move things, and these are the rewards given to us by the boss, so we should help him avenge." He was stunned for a moment. "It's up to you, but there are so many people, I don't know who the other party is, and I don't have time to find him." Wang Qiuyushu replied, "Maybe we will meet him one day. By the way, what do you mean by not wanting to meet him?" He sighed. "If he is still alive, he is just an ordinary person, which is easier to deal with. If he becomes a zombie, he must be a level 1 zombie or above, which is difficult to deal with. After all, this kind of guy who is so decisive that he dares to kill people is definitely not a good person. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 A Rich Harvest. Wan Qiushu said, "Don't be afraid, we will definitely become stronger by then, and we can easily beat him." He walked aside and started to pack snacks. "Let's talk about it later." Wan Qiushu also picked up a bucket and walked aside to fill it. After a while, the two of them had filled it up. The main thing is that they are going to empty this place, so there is no need to look, just fill it directly. Wan Qiushu looked at him. "What did you pick up?" He put the bucket in front of Wan Qiushu. "I picked up whatever I saw. What about you?" Wan Qiushu shook his head. "Me too." As he said this, he hid the bucket behind him. He thought about it and thought it might be something that was not convenient to say, so he didn't continue asking. So, he walked in front, holding the bucket in one hand and swinging the hammer of the earth in the other. "Let's go back first." Wan Qiushu followed him out the door. "By the way, why don't we bring 2 more buckets? This way we can carry 4 buckets at a time, which will be much more efficient." He looked around vigilantly and said, "In that case, it will be slower to walk. Moreover, if there is any emergency, it will be difficult to react. Although it is a little slower now, at least it is safe." Wan Qiushu nodded. "That's right." When the two passed by the apartment building, the people above were too lazy to scold and started throwing things directly. Wan Qiushu couldn't help but mutter, "These people are so annoying. They are so energetic. Won't they go and fight zombies?" He laughed and said, "Maybe it's because we to look easy to bully. After all, we are human beings, not zombies." Wan Qiushu sighed. "It's a pity that it's too troublesome. Otherwise I would have rushed in and beat them up." He nodded. "Don't worry about them. They are grasshoppers after autumn. They won't be able to jump for a few days. Let's move our things quickly." Then, the two of them walked back and forth between the two places like industrious ants, and at the same time, moved the things in the convenience store back. This kind of convenience store is for tenants, so in addition to snacks and other food, there are also some daily necessities, including toiletries and knives, etc. Anyway, there are all kinds of things. The two went back and forth and emptied it. In the end, he didn't even let go of the snacks next to the corpse. Wan Qiushu looked at the snacks and felt sick. Can those snacks still be eaten? They will be infected with bacteria from the corpse, he said as he picked them up. "I have picked them all. These are not crushed. Moreover, I just opened a package and checked it. There is no problem. As for bacteria, the place where the corpse is located is just facing the window, and there is always wind blowing in, so the corpse has become a mummy. Because it is not rotten, there are naturally no bacteria. Don't worry, I won't mix these with the previous ones. I can eat them myself." Wan Qiushu resisted the nausea and went up to pick them up. "No, if you can eat it, so can I." He smiled and said nothing more. Before leaving, Wan Qiushu looked at the corpse and said, "What do you think? Should we bury this corpse?" He shook his head. "Just leave it here. It will take too much effort to bury it, and maybe it will rot and attract zombies." Wan Qiushu thought about it and realized that it was true. "Then let's go." Then, the two went to the noodle shop and fast food restaurant and moved everything inside. The sauces had already been opened, so they ignored them. Fortunately, they found 2 bags of rice, some noodles, and vermicelli. Finally, they even picked up all the snacks that fell on the road. During the whole process of transporting, no zombies appeared, which made them feel a lot more relaxed. The zombies upstairs heard the sound of their movement, so they poked their heads out of the window, but they were blocked by the security net and couldn't get out at all. At this time, they were standing in a room on the 2nd floor, which was already filled with a pile of things. This room is the 3rd room. The first room is used to store the harvest from the restaurant yesterday, and the 2nd and 3rd rooms are used to store the harvest from the convenience store today. However, one room cannot hold them all, so it can be said that the harvest is quite rich. Wan Qiushu directly filled a bucket with snacks, then picked up 2 bottles of Fat House Happy Water, and went upstairs. It feels so good to buy things without spending money. It's worth it even if it's tiring. He followed behind and checked the messages sent by the system at the same time. This message suddenly appeared when he came back from the last trip, but he remembered that he had not killed any zombies or anything else at that time, so he felt it was particularly strange. He read all the way down and skipped the previous ones that added experience points by killing until he got to the latest one. System. Ding. The host is a man who wants to become a hegemon. How can you let these people insult you at will? Even if you want to insult, you can only be insulted by me. No, it is not right to be cheated by me, but it is not right. In short, the host should not let them bully you. Facing their evil deeds, the host should fight back. Now I'm issuing a task. The host can use any method to fight back against them and make them angry. The angrier they are, the richer the reward will be. He pondered for a while. System. Have you read too many domineering CEO novels? Also, how rich is this reward? System. Depending on the strength of the host's counterattack, the reward ranges from the lowest experience points to the highest random draw of a product from them all. He nodded. Then this reward is really generous. System. Then please complete the task as soon as possible. But he shook his head. I refuse. The system paused. Why? He snorted coldly. First, you just scolded me and said you cheated me, which made me very unhappy, so I don't want to accept it. Second, this reward is too bad. It is entirely up to you to judge the strength of the counterattack. Whatever you say is the reward. Third, the experience points don't say how much will be rewarded, and there are so many zombies. Do I need that little experience point? There is also the mall lottery. What if I win instant noodles or purified water? Wouldn't my work be in vain? I eat so much now. Do I need that little thing? System. But this mission does not pose any life-threatening danger. It's simply picked up for free. Are you sure you don't want to accept it? He waved his hand. If I don't accept it, I don't have to spend physical strength, but I have to spend brain power, so it's not picked up for free. Besides, if I want to make them angry, I have to stand outside. What if a zombie suddenly appears? Wouldn't I be dead? System. During the mission, the scanning function can be supplied unlimitedly. Once a zombie appears within the range, it will automatically prompt. He thought about it. It still doesn't work. The reward is too bad. Chapter 43. The Angry System. System. Then, double the reward. He immediately said, deal. Such a good task. The reward is simply free. How could I not take it? Haha, I finally let you trick me this time. I really want to see what your face looks like now. Oh, I forgot that you are just a system. You don't have a face. The system was silent immediately. He asked again. Oh, by the way, system, did you give the wrong name? System. No, I'm called the Zombie Auxiliary System. I will not change my name or surname. He shook his head. No, you see how persistent you are just now, even doubling the reward. So, I think you should still be the kind of pretentious system or the madness system. You always mad me, and when you find that you can't mad me to death, you let me mad others. The system was silent again. No matter what he asked, it didn't answer, probably because it was autistic. He picked up a task for nothing, and he was in a good mood. At the same time, he was also thinking in his mind how to get the highest reward. Soon, the two returned to Wang Qiushu's room. She lay down on the bed and said, I'm so tired. Fortunately, I finished it so early today. I can rest for a while. He went straight to the kitchen and started to cook. Wang Qiushu was surprised. It's still early now. If you cook so early, won't it get cold later? He said while washing the rice. We can eat it when it's ready. We don't have to wait until the evening. Wang Qiushu asked again. But if we eat so early, won't we be hungry in the middle of the night? Although, this can save some candles. He turned around and said, didn't you bring a bucket of snacks up? You can eat some snacks as a midnight snack when the time comes. Wang Qiushu didn't ask any more questions. After a while, the food was ready and served on the table. Wang Qiushu sat down on the chair consciously, picked up the chopsticks, and prepared to eat. He stopped Wang Qiushu. Wait, we are not eating here today. Let's go to another place. Wang Qiushu was stunned for a moment. Isn't this place good? Where else can we go? The rooftop. He shook his head. You can't go up to the rooftop, and the wind is so strong on the rooftop. What's the good of it? Just take the chairs and follow me. After that, he directly moved the whole table and walked out. Wang Qiushu didn't understand and stupidly followed him with 2 chairs, but found that he was walking downstairs. She suddenly became more curious, but didn't ask. When he came to the first floor, he said directly, "System, I'm here to do the task, turn on the scanner." System, the task requires the host to appear in the other party's field of vision. Now it has not reached the standard, so turning on the scanner will deduct experience. Are you sure you want to turn it on? He curled his lips. This system must be taking revenge on him. However, he naturally would not do as the system wished. Don't turn it on. Then, he put the table on the ground and put his hand on the door lock, ready to open the door and see the situation outside. If there was no problem, he would go out directly. Then he should be able to turn on the scanner. Wang Qiushu quickly put down the chair and grabbed his hand. "Don't tell me you're going to have dinner outside." He nodded. "Yeah, haven't those people been scolding us? I'm going to have a hot meal in front of them today and make them angry to death." Wang Qiushu said again, "But that's too dangerous. What if a zombie appears? We can't be afraid of having a meal." He waved his hand. "Don't worry, I feel that the energy of the scanning ability is about to overflow, and I feel uncomfortable if I don't use it. So when we eat later, I will keep it on. If there is a zombie, I will definitely find it at the first time." Wang Qiushu still didn't believe it. "Really?" He laughed. "Do you think I would joke about my life? I'm not the kind of person who pretends to be cool and doesn't care about my life." Wang Qiushu let go of his hand. "Okay then." He carefully opened the door and looked outside carefully through the crack in the door, but didn't see any zombies. Next, he opened the crack of the door a little wider until it was completely opened. He didn't see any zombies and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Wang Qiushu, who was standing behind him, felt even more strange when she saw his appearance, but she still chose to believe him. At this time, he picked up the table and walked out. Sure enough, as soon as he stepped out, the system directly turned on the scanning function. It seems that the system still doesn't want him to die. Of course, it is also possible that the system did not see that he had angered those people to death, so it was not prepared to let him die. He thought about it and felt that the latter possibility was more likely. After the scan was turned on, he did not enter the three-dimensional space, but a three-dimensional model automatically appeared in his mind, in which two green dots were moving. Naturally he and Wang Qiushu. In front were some yellow and red dots, which were the living people and zombies in the apartment. Apart from that, there were no other living things within the scanning range, and he immediately felt relieved. He carried the table and walked to the front of the apartment building, to a piece of open space where those people could not throw things, and then stopped. Wang Qiushu moved to chairs and placed them next to the table. At the same time, she noticed his relaxed expression and relaxed as well. He was afraid that those people didn't see it and was ready to shout a few times. As a result, when he looked up, he found that those people were lying on the windowsill and looking at them eagerly. His eyes turned and he understood immediately. These people are probably always paying attention to the outside, wanting to see if anyone will come to rescue them. Unfortunately, their wishes are probably going to be in vain. The end of the world has passed for so long. If there is rescue, it would have appeared long ago. The people upstairs looked at the two of them strangely, not knowing what they were going to do. However, when those people saw the dishes on the table, fried bacon, fried shredded potatoes, steamed dried fish, white rice and sausages on top, they couldn't help swallowing their saliva. Wang Qiushu looked at the expressions of those people and felt much more relieved. They have been scolded by these people a lot in the past 2 days. If it weren't too troublesome to transform once, and it was really not worth it, she would have dealt with them long ago. After all, even if they really rushed in, they would just beat them up at most. They couldn't take their lives, just because they were scolded. He smiled at those people, then asked Wang Qiushu to sit down. "Come, let's eat. We've been tired all day, and finally we can have a good meal." Wang Qiushu also sat next to him, so that the two of them just faced the people in the apartment building. He picked up another piece of bacon and put it in Wang Qiushu's bowl. "This is for you." Chapter 44. Annoying. Wang Qiushu smiled and nodded, glanced at those people, then picked up the bacon and put it in her mouth, chewed it twice. "It smells so good, so delicious." Then she swallowed it. Those people watched Wang Qiushu's actions intently until she swallowed it. They also swallowed their saliva gulp together. Wang Qiushu smiled proudly, and the depression of being scolded in the past few days was swept away. She also imitated Li Wending just now, picked up a piece of fish, and put it in his bowl. "This is for you." He picked up the fish, and put it in his mouth, closed his eyes, and tasted it carefully, with an intoxicated look on his face, as if he was eating some delicious food. Then he took another bite of rice, before swallowing the fish meat, and said loudly, "Delicious." The fish meat is salty and fragrant, which makes people have endless aftertaste. It is worthy of being a top quality salted fish. Wang Qiushu couldn't help but whispered, "You are too exaggerated." He smiled, "Not at all, let alone eating meat. Even if I took a bite of white rice, and said it was delicious, they would swallow their saliva, because they are very hungry now." At this time, the skinny man on the 4th floor threw down a piece of clothes, and the clothes fell lightly to the ground. For a moment, the scene was a bit awkward. He looked at the man on the 4th floor. "Have you thrown away all the things, so there is nothing to throw away?" The man first adjusted his glasses, then cursed. "What does it have to do with you? Do you think you can make me greedy by eating here and saying a few words? I tell you, the official people will come to rescue us soon, and then we will have everything we want to eat." Others also echoed, "That's right, that little bit of food is not enough for me alone. That salted fish is salty and smelly. I don't want it even if it's free. I think he is deliberately irritating us. We shouldn't be fooled." He picked up a piece of bacon and ate it, then said, "You are right. I'm deliberately irritating you. When I think about you being locked up and starving, and even without water to drink, and you are still alone. And I not only have beautiful women to accompany me, but also have food and meat, and I'm very free, and can go out at will. I really feel very happy, especially if you are angry, I will be even happier. After all, you have enjoyed scolding us these days." The man with glasses threw down another piece of clothing. "Everyone, throw it to him. Don't let him eat so comfortably." Then, all kinds of messy things were thrown down and piled up all over the floor. However, the place where the two of them were was far away from the apartment building, so there was no need to worry about being thrown. He glanced at Wang Qiushu again. "Eat, otherwise the food will get cold. Let them throw it for a while first." Wang Qiushu stared at those people blankly, said "Oh," and started eating again. He was even more like a normal person, picking up food while eating. Of course, he was always paying attention to the scanner. In case there was anything wrong, he would quickly go back to the building. After a while, those people didn't know whether they had thrown all the things or found that they were useless, so they gave up and stopped throwing things down. He looked up and smiled. "What's wrong? Are you out of energy because you didn't eat enough? Do you want me to treat you to something?" A slightly fat woman on the 5th floor cursed directly. "Bah, I don't care about your things. Aren't they just food? I have plenty here. I just can't stand your mean face." He nodded. "I agree with this. After all, after so many days, your figure is still so good. In addition to the fact that you are fat, there must be a lot of food in your room. So, if you can rush into her house, you might be able to grab some food." The fat woman immediately became anxious. "Who are you calling fat? Who said I still have food here? I don't have food here. If I had food, I wouldn't be so hungry." The man on the 4th floor said, "Sister, I haven't eaten for many days. Can you give me some? If I don't eat, I'll starve to death." The others also looked at the fat woman, but did not say anything. The fat woman hurriedly said, "I told you I don't have any. I'm not as petty as him. If I had, I would definitely give it to you. After all, we are tenants in the same building, and we are in the same boat." He took another bite of rice. "It would be more convincing if you wiped the biscuit crumbs from the corner of your mouth." The fat woman subconsciously wiped it with her hand, but soon realized that she didn't have any biscuits at all, so she became even angrier. "He is simply trying to sow discord and wants us to fight among ourselves. We should now be united against the outside world." When Wang Qiushu saw this scene, he puffed and almost spit out his rice. "I didn't expect there are such stupid people." He turned his head and glanced at Wang Qiushu. He really wanted to ask her where she got the confidence to say this. The man saw that it was impossible to get anything from the fat woman, so he pointed his gun at the two of them again. That's right, these two are simply not human beings. They didn't help us and deliberately ate in front of us, provoking us and even trying to sow discord between us. When Wang Qiushu heard this, she immediately got angry and slammed her chopsticks on the table, ready to fight back. He quickly pulled Wang Qiushu. No need, let him say it. We can just eat our meal in peace. If we get angry, we will be fooled by them. Wang Qiushu picked up her chopsticks angrily and started eating, but her eyes were always on the man. It seemed that she couldn't swallow this anger. Seeing this, the man cursed even more vigorously. Then, the fat woman and others also started to curse. Anyway, there were all kinds of ugly words. It was simply unbearable to hear. Wang Qiushu became more and more angry as she listened, and she couldn't even eat her meal. She turned her head to look at Li Wending, but found that he was still eating comfortably, as if he didn't care at all. She couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you angry at all?" He looked at Wang Qiushu with a calm look, then picked up a piece of bacon. "I'm not angry, and I don't think you need to be angry, because if you get angry, I will finish all the dishes." Wang Qiushu then reacted, "Ah, you are so cunning, eating the dishes, while I'm angry." Immediately, she didn't care about being angry anymore, and started to eat desperately. He smiled. In fact, he was not only not angry now, but also felt very happy. The harder those people scolded, the angrier they were, and the better the reward would be. Chapter 45. Mouth Can Kill. Those people started to curse very enthusiastically, especially when they saw Wang Qiushu was so angry that he couldn't even eat. However, when they saw Wang Qiushu eating again, they suddenly felt bored. As for Li Wending, he always looked calm and composed, so they never thought they could anger him. In addition, they were hungry and thirsty, so they gradually stopped. So, it suddenly became quiet, and Wang Qiushu felt a little uncomfortable, so he looked up and asked, "Why did you stop?" He wanted to add fuel to the fire, but when he heard Wang Qiushu's words, he knew that he didn't need to do anything. Sure enough, those people started cursing again, and the content was different from before. This really opened his eyes. It turned out that cursing could be so creative. However, this time, those people stopped cursing after a while, because they were really tired, and their mouths were dry. He was thinking about what kind of reward he would get if he ended it now, and whether he should find a way to stimulate these people again. At this time, the man on the 4th floor came out with an iron pot and a stick. "Although I can't curse anymore, I can knock on the pot and make you unable to eat in peace." The fat woman immediately said, "Well done, you knock first, I'll take over later." The others also cheered. The man immediately started to knock on the pot, making a sharp and piercing sound. He frowned immediately, not because he felt uncomfortable with the sound, but because he was worried that it would attract zombies. After all, the sound of knocking on the pot was much louder than the curses of these people. At the same time, the already irritable zombies in the apartment building knocked on the door louder. So, he said directly, "I advise you to stop for a while, otherwise you will attract zombies here." The man burst into laughter and pointed at Li Wending. "Are you in a hurry? What if you attract zombies here? I can't live anyway. If I can see you killed by zombies before I die, I will be happier. At least you two will be buried with me." He smiled and put down the bowl. "Then I guess you won't be able to see it, because even if you succeed in attracting zombies here, you will die before us." The man smiled grimly. "Really? Why do I feel that you are scared? I'm in the room now, so safe. How could I die before you?" His eyes turned, and then he said, "However, if you bring me some food, I can consider stopping." He smiled. "Then you can go and see how many zombies are outside your room, but if you knock for a while longer, they will probably be behind you soon." The man hesitated. "I don't believe it. Don't try to lie to me." He shook his head helplessly. "I just said that zombies will be attracted by sound. So, when you knock on the pot, it is the zombies in the building that are attracted by you first. Now, all the zombies in the building should be outside your door." He pointed at the others again. "It's a pity that you can't see it. They are secretly happy now." The man's hand stopped, and soon he heard a heavy knock on the door outside, and it was obviously not knocked by a zombie. He shook his head. "I don't believe it. It's all fake, all made up by you." Do you think you can scare me like this? I'll prove it to you now. Then, the man disappeared directly from the windowsill. After a while, a scream came from the building, and then not long after, the screams disappeared. The others trembled all over and guessed what happened. He shook his head, then looked at Wang Qiushu. After saying so much, I suddenly feel a little thirsty. You go and get me a bottle of wine. Wang Qiushu experienced this kind of thing for the first time. Although he had killed many zombies before, they were different from humans after all. And now, he saw a person die directly. A living life was gone just like that. Although, the man didn't say a single good word, and if he continued like this, he would starve to death sooner or later. But now the man was indirectly killed by Li Wending, and the screams kept echoing in her ears. Seeing Wang Qiushu in a daze, he patted her shoulder gently. Are you okay? Wang Qiushu shook her head. What did you say just now? He said again, let's not drink anymore. Have a bottle of Fat House Happy Water. Wang Qiushu said oh, and then walked towards the building. He looked at Wang Qiushu's back and couldn't help saying, it was like this for the first time, and it would be fine after getting used to it. By then, it would probably become numb. After a while, Wang Qiushu came back with a bottle of Fat House Happy Water and 2 disposable cups. The people upstairs licked their dry and cracked lips, and the desire in their eyes became stronger. He took the Fat House Happy Water, opened it and poured out 2 cups, and a bunch of bubbles came out of it. He handed a cup to Wang Qiushu, and took a sip himself. I'm a little thirsty, after eating so much meat. A cup of Fat House Happy Water is just right. Such a life is really comfortable. Those people just stared at the two of them and said nothing. After all, they all knew what happened to the man with glasses just now. However, they didn't dare to open the door and rush out. What if there were zombies outside the door? Wang Qiushu just held the cup, but didn't drink it. He was stunned, and didn't know what to think. He thought for a moment and said, I remember picking up a lot of expired snacks today. I'll just throw them away later. At this time, the fat woman on the 5th floor said, don't throw them away. Don't throw them away. It's wrong to waste food. Just give them to me. He frowned, but those snacks are expired. What if I get sick? The fat woman said quickly, it's okay. I'm in good health. The jet meal can't do anything to me, let alone a few expired snacks. He nodded immediately. Okay then. The fat woman's face lit up immediately, and the others couldn't help but secretly regret that they missed such an opportunity because they were a step late. Even if they were expired, as long as they could fill their stomachs, they didn't care so much. Then, he walked back and came out with a bag of potato chips soon. The fat woman's smile became even brighter. He looked upstairs, then at the potato chips. But these potato chips are too light. How can I give them to you? The fat woman said quickly. Go find a rope, tie a stone to the potato chips, and then throw the stone up. I will catch it. He nodded. That's a good idea. Chapter 46 playing. Soon, he did what the fat woman said. However, he looked at the fat woman. Come to think of it, you and the guy with glasses cursed the most fiercely just now. Now the guy with glasses is dead, and only you are left. The fat woman's smile froze on her face. What do you mean? He smiled. Do you think I would be so generous? Would I be so generous as to send food to someone who cursed me? The fat woman's expression suddenly became interesting. At this time, a young man who happened to live upstairs from the fat woman said, yes, she cursed so badly just now that I couldn't stand it. So, give me this bag of potato chips. The fat woman was immediately unhappy. What do you mean, upstairs? You want to belittle me to please him, right? The young man laughed. Who told you to be so foul-mouthed just now, and kept cursing them, and then wanted to take advantage of others after cursing? You are so shameless. The fat woman replied, oh, it's as if you didn't curse, but your voice was too soft, like a sissy, so not many people noticed it. The young man was immediately angry. Who are you calling a sissy? He didn't want to watch this farce anymore, so he said to the young man on the 6th floor, okay, this bag of potato chips is for you, take it. The young man was immediately overjoyed. This wave was worth it. When he thought that he would be able to eat potato chips later, he rubbed his hands with excitement. The fat woman looked at Li Wending with indignation, but she couldn't do anything about him. At this time, he threw the stone up suddenly, but the stone only reached the 4th floor and then fell down, along with the potato chips. The young man on the 6th floor was immediately disappointed. If this happened, he would not be able to eat. The fat woman gloated and said, "It seems that some people still have no strength after eating. I wonder if they can throw it to the 6th floor in a day." He looked at the young man. "Sorry, I didn't have enough strength just now. I will definitely be able to throw it this time." What else can the young man say? He can only hope that he will use more strength next time. Once again, the stone flew up, taking the potato chips with it. The young man saw that there was a chance with this strength, so he even stretched his hand out of the window. As long as he caught the stone, he would have potato chips to eat. However, when the stone was about to fly to the 6th floor, a fat hand suddenly caught the stone. The young man's hand was fixed there, his expression was frozen, and he finally reacted the next second. "Hey, downstairs, give me my potato chips back." The fat woman chuckled. "What's in my hand is naturally mine. Besides, even if I give it back to you, can you get it? Otherwise, come down and get it." The young man looked at Li Wending again. "Any more?" He spread his hands. "No, I only found this one bag. You can only blame your bad luck." The fat woman opened the bag with joy, only to find that it was empty. It had been opened long ago, and the outside was taped with transparent tape. She was stunned for a moment, and then she reacted immediately, throwing the stone and the bag down together. "You have been doing this for so long, just to trick us?" He quickly dodged the stone. "Yes, I'm just tricking you. What do you think?" When the young man heard that the fat woman was tricked, he laughed immediately. It took him a while to react, and he looked at Li Wending fiercely. "So, you were playing a trick on me just now?" He smiled. "Yeah, you didn't think I would really send you food, and then continue to scold me after you were full, right? With your IQ, you deserve to starve to death in this building." Then, he stopped caring about these people, started to clean up the table, and prepared to go back. These were the only methods he could think of. "I guess these people are about to explode now, but I don't know what kind of task evaluation the system will give." Wang Qiushu also followed him blankly with 2 chairs. At this time, looking at Wang Qiushu's actions, the fat woman suddenly said, "Are you the zombie wearing thick clothes?" Wang Qiushu looked up at the fat woman in confusion. The fat woman looked at Wang Qiushu's actions, which were exactly the same as the first time she saw the zombie, and the shoes and hammer that the zombie wore, and she was immediately more certain. She said again, "Yes, you are the zombie." Wang Qiushu looked at him, not knowing what to do. He also frowned. Although he did not disguise Wang Qiushu, he was wrapped in clothes. He did not expect to be recognized. At this time, the fat woman said, "Either you save me quickly, or I will tell others that she is a zombie. I believe you will not have a good ending." Others also shouted, "Yes, and us. Save us all." He smiled coldly. "Then I want to see who you tell." The fat woman was stunned on the spot, but she continued to say stubbornly, "It depends on who will pass by here. Anyway, as long as someone passes by, I will tell them." His eyes turned cold, and a murderous aura burst out from him. The people upstairs trembled at the same time, and then walked back, not daring to look at him again. At the same time, he also noticed that the yellow dots in the 3-dimensional space no longer existed, and everything in the apartment building turned into red dots. Does this mean that those people have also become enemies? He couldn't help but ask, "System, since they have also turned into red dots, can we also gain experience points by killing them?" System, yes, after all enemies are killed, they can gain corresponding experience points according to their strength. He nodded. "So that's it." At this time, the two were almost back to the building. He suddenly thought of something, stopped directly, put the table on the ground, and ran to the right. Wang Qiushu suddenly reacted and asked hurriedly, "What are you going to do?" He said while running, "Nothing, I'll be back soon." As he ran, the range of the scanner was also moving. Soon, he saw countless red dots and a yellow dot in the factory next to the building. On the high-speed rail, there were only dozens of red dots left. It seems that many people and zombies on the high-speed rail have died and have begun to enter the goo breeding mode. At this time, the system suddenly said, Since the host has left the mission location, the mission is automatically ended, and the scanner will no longer be provided. The next second, he really retreated, and couldn't see anything. He breathed a sigh of relief, and then ran back quickly. After all, without the scanner, it would be dangerous. However, he was still very happy in his heart, and getting something for free made him happy. Chapter 47 Rewards. Seeing him coming back, Wan Qiushu couldn't help but ask, "Why did you suddenly run over there just now? I almost thought you were upset, because you were stimulated." He smiled. "I felt that the energy of the scanner was about to run out, so I thought about going over there to check the situation. After all, both the factory and the high-speed rail next to us are very close to us. Once the zombies inside run out, they will threaten us first." Wan Qiushu nodded and said worriedly, "Should we take the initiative or something?" He shook his head. "There are still dozens of zombies in the factory, and one living person, but the number is too many, and there is nothing we need in it, so there is no need. The high-speed rail can only accommodate nearly 1,000 people at most, and now there are only dozens of zombies left, which means that they have begun to breed poisonous insects inside. I don't know if there will be powerful high-level zombies. Moreover, the high-speed rail is dozens of meters above the ground, and we can't get up at all." Wan Qiushu thought about it. "That's right, but the living people in the factory, shouldn't we save him?" He moved the table and walked in front. "Did you forget what I told you before? There is no need to save him." Wan Qiushu insisted. "However, since he is still alive, it means he is trying very hard to survive. Maybe if we help rescue him, he can survive." He stopped and said, "We are not saints. To save such a person who we don't know what kind of person he is, we have to face dozens of zombies at the same time. It will take us at least 2 or 3 days, and we need to consume food in the meantime. Moreover, even if we rescue him, he will not live long after being hungry for so many days and without proper treatment." Wan Qiushu choked up and said, "Are we just going to watch him die? You said before that, if the other party tries hard to survive, you will lend a helping hand." He sighed. "That depends on the situation. It's not worth it now." Wan Qiushu did not respond. He went on to say, "I know what happened just now has a great impact on you, but this is how the end of the world is. Human life is worthless. Besides, that person was so depressed that he ran out to die. Even if I really have to say it, it was me who killed him, and it has nothing to do with you at all, so you don't need to feel guilty or anything." Wan Qiushu leaned on his back and cried, "I'm so scared. I was thinking, if we hadn't provoked him, maybe he wouldn't have done that. Besides, that was a life, that was a human, not a zombie, and he died just like that, so miserably. I can still hear his screams in my ears now. I'm so scared. One day I will die like this." He put down the table, turned around and hugged Wan Qiushu, patting her back gently. "Don't be afraid. As long as I'm here, I won't let you be bitten to death by zombies. And people like him don't deserve to die, and you don't need to feel guilty." At this time, Wan Qiushu suddenly raised her head and looked at him with tearful eyes. "What are you going to do with the others? Kill them too?" He was stunned for a moment, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "I was originally prepared to wait for them to starve to death. Anyway, they scolded us, and we were angry and went back. We have nothing to do with each other. However, since they threatened us with the fact that you are a zombie, we can't let them stay in this world." Wan Qiushu took a step back in fear. He said, "There is nothing we can do about it. Although they don't know that you are still a human, you can only turn into a zombie. However, we don't know how much official power is still preserved, or whether there are other newly developed forces. In short, if others know that I can turn you into a zombie, they will definitely be caught and sliced for a search, or someone may find this weakness in the future. So, they must die." Wan Qiushu nodded blankly, obviously realizing the seriousness of the matter. He said, "Don't worry, I will do it when the time comes. At most, you will kill those zombies. Of course, if they can die before I do it, it will be even better." Wan Qiushu nodded again. He said no more and moved the table upstairs. At the same time, he also checked the rewards sent by the system in his mind. System, ding, the host's mission has been completed, and the highest reward has been obtained. The reward has been issued. He nodded with satisfaction. Fortunately, the system did not cheat him on the reward, and it was worth it for him to rack his brains to anger those people. As expected, he got the highest reward. However, the highest reward is just a lottery in the mall, and you may not win anything. After thinking about it, he did not start the lottery here. If he really won instant noodles or purified water, he would definitely be so angry that he rolled down the stairs. The two returned to Wang Qiuyushu's room. Wang Qiuyushu sat aside to calm down, and he rubbed his hands excitedly and prepared to draw the lottery. System, start the lottery. System, ding, the lottery is in progress. The host gets a weapon upgrade worth 10 experience points. He nodded. Well, that's good. System, draw again. Give me a scanner upgrade, and it will be complete. System, the host has no more draws. He was stunned. Wait, didn't you just say that the reward would be doubled? Shouldn't I draw twice? System, yes, I said the reward would be doubled, but I didn't say the lottery would be doubled. So, the host can now get 2 chances to upgrade the weapon. He immediately felt that his breathing was not smooth. System, you are catching the words, right? Come on, stick your head over here, I will give you a buff. In fact, being able to upgrade the weapon twice is also a good reward. However, what he wants is not the reward, but the pleasure of the lottery. This thing is just like drawing cards in mobile games. The process is the most exciting, and the result is not important. But the system wants to deprive him of the only fun. The system ignored him. After a while, he asked again, for this upgrade, can everything be done? For example, armor and the like. The system was silent for a while before answering. Yes. He nodded, looked at Wang Qiuyushu again, and finally decided to postpone the matter for the time being. At least she was not in a suitable state to talk about it now. Then, the two went to wash up and go to bed. As a result, it suddenly started to rain in the middle of the night. The rain tick 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 hit the windowsill, making a crisp sound. At the same time, the breeze gently floated into the house with moisture, bringing a refreshing feeling. So that night, the two slept particularly sweetly. Chapter 48 Rain. The next morning, he woke up very early, but because he heard the sound of rain outside, and it was too warm in the quilt, he did not get up. After a while, the rain did not stop, but got heavier and heavier, and it seemed that it would turn into a downpour. He suddenly remembered something, and suddenly climbed out of the quilt, picked up the hammer of the earth and walked out. Not long after, Wang Qiuyushu woke up. To be precise, she was woken up. She stretched her body first. It's so comfortable, I don't want to get up. Then, she found that there was no figure of Li Wending in the room. At the same time, there was a loud noise in her ears from time to time, so she quickly changed her clothes and went out. When she came to the 5th floor, she found that Li Wending was smashing the door. She couldn't help but wonder, why are you smashing these doors for no reason? Don't we have enough things? In order not to waste physical strength and time, they only smashed open the doors of some rooms at first, and many of them were not opened later. Besides, they had just looted so much food in convenience stores, so they should have enough food and daily necessities, so there was no need to spend so much effort to break down the door. He said without turning his head, now the rain is getting heavier, we need to take this opportunity to collect more water, so I came to break down the door and take out all the containers like buckets here. Wang Qiuyushu was puzzled, but didn't the convenience store bring back a lot of basins and buckets? He kicked the door open, then turned around and said, it's not easy to get such a heavy rain, so of course we have to collect more. These may be our water resources in the future. As for the next heavy rain, we don't know when it will be. Wang Qiuyushu nodded. Then you break down the door. I'll be responsible for taking out those buckets and other things. He thought about it and finally said, be careful, check the situation before going out, and don't go too far from the door. By the way, remember to bring an umbrella, don't get wet in the rain. It is difficult to control two bodies at the same time, and if that happens, there will not be enough time, so he did not choose to transform. Wang Qiuyushu responded, picked up the dripping umbrella beside him, and several buckets and basins and went down. He continued to smash the door. The two of them divided the work and cooperated. After a while, All the buckets and basins were taken out and filled in front of the door. When everything was done, the two went straight back to Wang Qiushu's room. Anyway, they just had to wait here until the rain stopped before going down to get water. And at this rate, it was estimated that they could store a lot of water. He stood by the window and looked outside. Wang Qiushu stood beside him and asked, "What are you thinking about?" He sighed. It is said that spring rain is as precious as oil. People often wait until it rains before sowing. Now it is useless, no matter how expensive it is. There are not many living people, and no one dares to sow. Wang Qiushu also sighed. Yes, who would have thought that the end of the world would come? He thought for a while and asked again, "When you were outside just now, did you notice what those people in the apartment were doing?" Wang Qiushu was stunned. "You don't want to kill them all now?" After all, it was raining heavily now, and it was impossible to go out to find things. Combined with what he said yesterday, this is a very likely option. He shook his head. "Tell me first, did you see anything?" Wang Qiushu thought for a while. "I just looked up and found that they were very happy to take out buckets and basins and put them on the windowsill to collect water, and even held cups in their hands and stretched them out of the window to collect water. Some of them were taking a bath while collecting water. By the way, do you think we should take a bath together? I haven't taken a bath for a long time. It must be very comfortable to shower directly under the rain." He shook his head. "Aren't you afraid that they will see you taking a bath?" Wang Qiushu blushed. "Then you can go to the side where they can't see you." He still shook his head. "Forget it." At this time, Wang Qiushu looked at the several flower pots on the windowsill and said in surprise, "Your potatoes and sweet potatoes have sprouted. Doesn't that mean that we will have potatoes and sweet potatoes to eat in the future?" The potatoes were selected and planted directly after sprouting, and the sweet potatoes were cut into a small piece and put down. Both of them can be propagated through rhizomes. He smiled and said, "Not only these two, there are also sweet potato leaves." Wang Qiushu was stunned for a moment. "I never knew that sweet potato leaves could be eaten." He gently poked the tender sprouts that had just emerged from the sweet potato. "Of course sweet potato leaves can be eaten, but you have to choose those that are tender. The old ones will not taste good. Moreover, you have to peel off the outer skin. The best way is to blanch it with boiling water first, which will make it much easier to peel." Wang Qiushu asked curiously, "Can't you just peel it? It feels so wasteful to use boiling water, wasting water and gas." He nodded. "Of course you can, but it will waste your fingernails. I bought a pound of sweet potato leaves at the beginning, and then peeled them for 2 hours, and my fingernails were hurt. Later, I never bought this thing again, until I saw on the internet that you can use boiling water to scald the skin." Wang Qiushu laughed directly. "I didn't expect you to be so stupid." He also smiled. "It is indeed quite stupid." At this time, Wang Qiushu picked up the sweet potato directly. "Since spring rain is as precious as oil, let it drink more. I hope it can grow up faster, so that we can have sweet potato leaves to eat." He suddenly stopped Wang Qiushu. "No." Wang Qiushu was stunned. "Why? Now there is free rainwater, isn't it good?" He shook his head. "This rain is too abnormal. Spring rain will not fall so heavy. Only summer rainstorms will be like this. Moreover, this is the first rain after the apocalypse. No one knows whether it will contain zombie viruses or something." Wang Qiushu put the flower pot back to its original place. "So you just told me to hold an umbrella and not let me go out to take a shower. Wait, what will happen if those people in the apartment drink it directly?" He sighed. "I don't know, but now it's just right for them to try it. I guess they saw us filling the water and thought they could drink it, so they were relieved." Wang Qiushu was stunned. He looked at the two little turtles again and said, "Even if they don't drink it, they will die of dehydration sooner or later. Besides, they are bound to die, and it's a good thing that they can help us test the poison now. Otherwise, they may have to rely on these two." Wang Qiushu nodded, but she still felt uncomfortable when she thought that several lives might disappear in a while. He said nothing more and continued to watch the rain. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. Follow me home. The rain was getting heavier, as if someone was pouring water from the sky. The sky and the earth were all white, and it was impossible to see the scenery a little further away. Wan Qiushu looked for a while and suddenly asked, "If it doesn't stop raining today, do we have to go out?" He nodded. "We don't know what effect this rain will have on people and zombies, and such heavy rain will definitely affect our actions. If we encounter high-level zombies, it will be fatal in a minute, so we probably won't go out today." Wan Qiushu breathed a sigh of relief. "Great, I can finally take a break today." Then she lay back on the bed, took out her phone, and started reading a novel. He read for a while, and then went back to the room. However, he didn't rest, but started exercising. This was a physical training that had been planned before. Only in this way can he enhance his physical fitness and increase the time for transformation. On the other hand, it can also enhance his reaction speed, so that he will have a higher chance of surviving when encountering danger. He also asked the system that when Wan Qiushu transformed, his original body would have nothing to do, so could he exercise at that time? Anyway, training is just repetitive mechanical movements, and does not require too much control. However, the system's answer is no, because although physical strength is only drawn at the end of the transformation, but if too much physical strength is consumed in the middle, it will form a pre-consumption, which will also cause him to rest for a longer time. In this case, the gain will outweigh the loss. As for the auxiliary, he has been fighting during the transformation time, so his physical strength will naturally be exercised. Moreover, after the auxiliary transforms into a zombie, no matter how much physical strength is consumed, the transformation time is fixed. Therefore, Wan Qiushu does not need to exercise extra. During his rest time, Wan Qiushu stopped reading novels and asked, "Why are you working so hard? The food we have now is enough for us to eat for a long time." He panted and replied, "Because I want to go home, so I have to become stronger." Wan Qiushu murmured, "Go home?" He nodded, "Yes, go home. My parents are still waiting for me at home, so I must go back." Wan Qiushu looked at him, but she didn't finish her words in the end. He smiled. "When the doomsday happened, I called them. They all hid in the house, and they had enough food, so they should be able to hold on for a while." Wan Qiushu asked again, "What about water? Water is more important, right?" He smiled. "In the past, every household in the countryside would dig a well, but now many people use tap water, but the well is still there, so water is not a problem." Wan Qiushu said "Oh," and then asked, "Then how far is your home from here?" He thought for a while. "More than 500 kilometers. It used to take 7 or 8 hours to take the highway, but now it is estimated that it will take longer, and I don't know what dangers I will encounter on the road. So, I have to work harder now to deal with what may happen in the future." Wan Qiushu nodded and did not ask any more questions, but was thinking about something. He looked at Wan Qiushu and said, "Don't worry, I will send you back first, and then go home, but I don't know where your home is." Wan Qiushu was stunned for a moment. My home is here." This time it was his turn to be stunned. Wan Qiushu said to herself, "There's no one in my family anymore. I'm the only one left. I don't know how many years it has been since I went back." He was silent for a moment and asked, "What about your boyfriend? You're so beautiful, there must be a lot of people pursuing you, right? Or do you have any friends you can trust?" Wan Qiushu shook her head. "I don't have a boyfriend. In fact, I live here just to avoid those people. As for friends, didn't you say before that people are selfish? In this doomsday, everyone is struggling to survive. Who can I turn to? Besides, it's not certain whether they are still alive." He understood. I said, "The salary of a flight attendant is not low, and the airline should also provide accommodation. Why would you live in a suburb like this? Plus, there's a high-speed rail next to it. It's so noisy." Wan Qiushu smiled. "Maybe I'm used to the noise of the airport. I don't think this high-speed rail is noisy. The most important thing is that this place is secluded enough and those people can't find it here." Although some of them are rich and some are powerful, I don't like them, and it's hard to refuse them directly, so I just hide here. He nodded. That's right. Who would have thought that a flight attendant would live in a place like this? This place is too remote, and there is a high-speed rail next to it, so the rent is very low, and generally only those who work in nearby factories will rent it. The room fell silent. At this time, he suddenly looked at Wang Qiushu. Since you have nowhere to go, why don't you just go home with me? Wang Qiushu was stunned for a moment, and looked at him with a slightly red face. Ah. He said again, originally, I wanted to be a flower protector to send you home, but now you can be my flower protector. Otherwise, I will have a headache about how to go back then. Wang Qiushu said, are you so sure that I will go back with you? My home is here, I can stay. He shook his head. After all, this is not a place where you can stay for a long time. Wang Qiushu was puzzled. Why? He sighed. Do you know why people like to go to big cities? Wang Qiushu thought about it. The salary is high. The same job pays much more in big cities than in small cities. He nodded. High salary is only one aspect. Secondly, the various facilities in the city are relatively complete, especially medical education and convenient transportation, which are not available in small cities. Therefore, people yearn for big cities and want to settle down in big cities. In addition, there are workers like me who want to get higher wages. Wang Qiushu was puzzled. So, what do you want to say? He explained. A large population requires a large number of houses, so the land in big cities is used to build houses, and there are not many places available for planting, which means that the food will be gone once it is eaten. And when people either die or turn into zombies, the city's original infrastructure advantages will be gone. The most important thing is that a large population means a huge number of zombies. Especially in this city, the permanent population seems to be 20 million. I really can't imagine what level of zombies will be raised by then. Wang Qiushu was silent. Chapter 50, Skirt of Darkness. He went on to say, it's just the opposite in the countryside. There are fewer people and more land. Many fields are abandoned, and basically there are left behind children and the elderly. Even if they become zombies, it's easier to deal with them. So, come back with me, back to the countryside. We can raise some animals, and grow some vegetables in the countryside in the future, and build a wall around it, so that zombies can never get in again. Wang Qiushu smiled. That kind of life seems pretty good. At least we don't have to go out to scavenge for food every day, and we don't have to worry about zombies appearing. He looked at Wang Qiushu carefully. Then do you agree? Wang Qiushu said helplessly. If I don't agree, do I have any other choice? Besides, you made this city sound so dangerous. I have to leave quickly. He waved his hand. You make it sound like I'm forcing you. Wang Qiushu smiled. This shouldn't be said to be forcing me. It should be said to be coercion and inducement. By the way, since you made it sound so scary here, when do you plan to go back? He thought for a while. I don't know, but it's definitely not now. We have nothing now, and the transformation time is only 5 minutes. Even if we fight our way out, we can't go far, so let's wait until we are strong enough. After all, it's hundreds of kilometers to go home. Such a long journey requires not only a car but also food. And we don't know what kind of dangers we will encounter on the road, such as a horde of corpses or high-level zombies, so the more prepared the better. Wang Qiushu nodded. Then these things will be left to you. I just need to be your thug and fight all the way back. At this time, he suddenly said, speaking of thugs, I just remembered something. Do you have leather jackets, leather pants, etc.? Wang Qiushu was stunned when he heard this question, and then asked with a blushing face, ah. At the same time, there was something wrong with the look in his eyes when he looked at him. He was afraid that Wang Qiushu had misunderstood something, so he quickly said, it's like this, I can upgrade my weapons now. Aren't you short of armor? I thought that leather jackets and leather pants basically cover the whole body, so they would be more suitable for armor. Wang Qiushu smiled awkwardly. She thought Li Wending had some special hobbies. Soon, she said, I don't have any. By the way, since it's armor, it must be worn in battle, right? Can I choose it myself? He thought about it and finally nodded. After all, Clothes are quite personal, and he can't decide which one to wear. However, he was not sure whether ordinary clothes could be upgraded. As a result, Wang Qiushu rummaged through the boxes and found a black dress. He was so confused, but still asked, "Are you sure you want to wear this? This one doesn't protect much of your body." Wang Qiushu said as a matter of course, since it's a protective gear, it should have some special functions. And since it's for fighting, of course it has to be dressed nicely. I'm tired of wearing the same clothes as before. This dress is my best looking and my favorite one. He sighed. Sure enough, women love beauty and don't care about their lives. Now they can only see what features can be upgraded. It would be best if it was a golden bell and iron cloth shirt, which could form all-round protection. Wang Qiushu handed the dress to him. He thought about it and asked, "System, how long will it take to upgrade? Can it be faster? Also, can you not use those special effects like golden light?" System, yes. He then said, "Upgrade the dress." System, ding, upgrade completed, get the dark dress. In just a blink of an eye, the black dress changed, the color became darker, and some purple patterns could be vaguely seen. The whole skirt looks more noble, and has a profound feeling, as if it can absorb people's mind. When Wang Qiushu saw the skirt, he liked it very much, and touched it directly with his hand. Wow, this fabric feels so comfortable. He checked the properties of the dark skirt. Dark skirt, primary form, upgradable, made of tough fabric. It can block the attacks of zombies of level 1 and below, and has a protective effect on the whole body. Introduction. Do you want to worship my dark skirt? Features. Non-stick pan. No matter what it touches, it will not stick to it, eliminating the trouble of cleaning. He sighed. This dark skirt can protect the whole body, so there is no need to worry about the exposed skin not being protected. However, he still asked, "System, what's the use of this non-stick pan? It's not a weapon that needs to come into contact with zombies frequently. I finally added a feature, and you gave me a non-stick pan." System, I'm too lazy to answer such straight questions. Maybe you can ask the assistant for his opinion. So he told Wang Qiushu all the properties of the dark skirt, and finally said, "I don't understand why there is a non-stick pan feature. Wouldn't it be better to have something else to increase defense?" Wang Qiushu said, "Non-stick pans are good. This way, I don't have to worry about getting the skirt dirty when fighting. By the way, since this dark skirt can protect the whole body, that means that, as long as I wear it, the black liquid will not splash on me, right?" He asked the system again, and nodded after getting an affirmative answer. Wang Qiushu smiled and said, "That's it. This feature is so useful. It's even better than those clothes made by so-called nanotechnology. Speaking of which, since it won't get dirty, doesn't it mean that you don't have to wash it anymore? If I were asked to wash a piece of clothes covered with black liquid, I would collapse. Moreover, in this way, I don't have to worry about being covered with that disgusting black liquid." He still couldn't understand. Compared to this feature, that was not very useful, he still wanted the one that added attributes. It would be even better if it could specifically add defense. It would keep adding until the zombies couldn't fight. Then you can walk sideways in the zombie group. At that time, he can directly let Wang Qiushu stand out and yell, "I'm standing here for you to fight. If you dare, kill me." Then those zombies fought for a long time until their hands were tired, but found that Wang Qiushu was unscathed. How desperate they would be. And at that time, she could get rid of the opponent without any effort. Moreover, as long as the defense is high enough, no matter what type of zombies you face, you can ensure that you are invincible. It is an absolute artifact for showing off. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.